Welcome back, gentlemen. It was a pretty tense morning. Man, we got through that. Hope everybody got them a piece of lunch. I was able to waffle something down. All right, Mr. Shelby, we're gonna go back.
Roll call, sir.
I told you, hey, they need them nutrients here. Roll call.
Carlson.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
Vieira.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
And Goods.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
All right, Mr. Shelby, you said there was a couple of items you wanted to straighten out before we get started, sir?
Yes, we can, Mr. Chairman. I think item 71 is going to be requesting a continuance. Mr. Gary is here.
All right.
So I believe what we need to do is we need to open up, we might as well, if you want, to open up all the public hearings for the
Move
day.
to open.
Second.
This was moved. Maniscalco is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion granted. We're open.
Mr. Gary, if you could just step up right to the lectern, and your name for the record. Just so, the microphone is built in.
My name is Gregory Gary.
And Mr. Gary, we're on item number 71, file DE1-22-34-C. Your hearing is open. This is a review hearing, and you're requesting a continuance. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the next available date would be May 5th of 2022 at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yes,
And you should make a note of that, please.
yes,
And that's your request to the city council.
yes, sir.
Move to continue to the specified date, Mr. Shelby has
Second.
mentioned.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco is motion. Mr. Miranda seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Thank you, sir. May 5th, 2022, sir.
Thank you. We'll
And
see you then. Thank
1:30
you.
in the afternoon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Shelby, any more housekeeping chores, sir?
Well, we're up to number 4, Mr. Chairman, and there is a request by the legal department with regard to that.
Good afternoon, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Respectfully, Mr. Chair, item number 4 was noticed for a public hearing, but it's not properly reflected on the agenda. As a result, we're asking respectfully for a continuance of item number 4, and I believe the clerk stated that the next available date is April 7th.
Move to continue to April
Second.
7th.
Mr. Maniscalco is moved to continue
It'll be on for first reading.
Be on for first reading.
first reading.
Okay. What? The time for it would be under first reading consideration? Is that where?
9 a.m.
No.
Yeah.
Wait a second, I'm curious. If it's a committee report, if it's an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, does it need to be a specific time? Oh, it is. It's quasi
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scalco. So that was Mr. Maniscalco, seconded by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And
Motion granted.
again, Mr. Chairman, just for the date,
Recognized?
just for the date, so there's no confusion.
I got April 7th,
At 9 a.m.
April 7th, 2022.
Sometime after 9 a.m.
9 a.m., yeah, right, sometime after 9 a.m. Anything else, Mr. Maniscalco?
Nothing else from
All
myself.
right. Mr. Shelby, anything else?
Not as yet, sir. I think you're moving right along.
All right. Public Safety Committee, Mr. Citro, items 5 through 11, sir.
Yes, sir. I will move items number 5 through 11. Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call.
Vieira. Yes. Citro.
Yes.
Miranda. Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Maniscalco, Parks and Rec, 12 through 15, sir.
And item 15, Festa Italiana Ybor, always a great event. I'd like to move items 12 through 15.
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Citro. Roll call.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda. Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Vieira. And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Carlson, you go to items 16 through 25, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'd like to move 16 through 25.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call.
Miranda. Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Vieira. Citro.
Yes.
And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, Mr. Miranda, items 26 excluding 28, because Mr. Carlson asked for that to be pulled. So that's 26 to 32 excluding 28, sir.
26, I'm sorry.
And 20, can I just make a quick comment on 29?
Well, if I can, Mr. Chairman, did you say not including 26?
No, sir, not including 28.
And
And 26 is already done. I'm sorry, sir. Okay, well, I apologize. I thought, okay, we handled 26 already earlier. So that'd be 27. 28 being pulled. Ms. Carlson, you had a comment, sir?
Can I just make a quick comment about 29?
29.
We allocated this money in CRA a long time ago, and Tampa Union Station has, the windows are falling apart, and other things are falling apart. It desperately needs protection and care. It's getting rain damage and other kinds of damage. And so I would just thank the chief of staff for moving this, helping to move this quickly. And for the sake of our community, I would just ask staff to please help us get this important historic building repaired as quickly as possible. Thank you.
All right, did you want to comment? I see Ms. Travis is here and Ms. Van Loan here. Did you want to comment on that? All right, so you good, sir?
Yeah, and then we're holding 28 out.
Correct. All right, Mr. Miranda, you may proceed, sir.
No. 26 is already taken care of.
Move 26 through 27, and then 29 through 32, omitting 28.
26 was taken care of, sir, remember?
26 was proposed.
27.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I want to move it again. No, 27, and then 29 through 32, omitting 28.
All right, a second, sir?
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco, roll call.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, Mr. Carlson, you again, items 33 through 49, sir?
28.
Let's skip 28.
There wasn't a vote on 28.
I thought he pulled that, he wanted to come
I
back to that
pulled
later.
28.
You pulled
It
28.
was pulled, and I meant,
Is it pulled for a separate vote or a discussion?
Yeah, I just want to vote no on that. I think it's overreaching for one consulting firm to have so much influence over the city. They're going to practically be embedded in every part of the city on a regular basis. There's no specific definition as to how much time they're going to be in. It's great to have outside advice, but we don't need to follow any one particular model. We can get the best cities in the world don't just copy one city. They get the best ideas from around the world and they incorporate them into their city.
Well,
And so I would just vote
I
no on
would,
that.
in that case, Mr. Carlson, I thought I read, maybe I didn't read a good understanding of 28. I didn't know this was gonna be incorporated the whole city from the Bloomberg Consulting out of New York. So maybe you might want to look at maybe, having that discussed or pulled for discussion, if that's the case, sir.
It's up to you. I mean, there are like 6 different
I'll
big
put it for
buckets.
discussion, that first of all, there's no charge to the city. You can read it, you can accept it or not. I mean, they want to do something that, it's not only that they do Tampa, they're doing in London, Chicago, Detroit, Newark, Milan, Lima, Peru. So, I mean,
I think it's great to get consulting advice, but if you look at the detail of it in the contract, they're very embedded in the city, and I think it's too much influence for one organization, that's all. Thank you.
Ms.
You could say that
Travis,
about
Ms.
the
Tra-
electric
Ms. Tra- Ms. Travis is here. You want to speak to that?
Good afternoon, Council. Nicole Travis, Administrator for Development and Economic Opportunity. Council, when I started in January 24th, the application had already been submitted for Bloomberg and Associates to consider Tampa as one of the cities that they take on. Similar to what Councilman Miranda just stated, that they've done work in a lot of other cities. They produce over 4,000 consultant hours specific to the projects and initiatives that the city needs. They look at the CRA plan, they look at the strategic action plan. How can they help us strategize? And we're talking about consultants that are nationally recognized across the country, some of which that I've heard speak at numerous conferences, and they give us best practices and advice specific to the issues that we're working on. So a lot of the issues that have come up since the time that I've been here are things that we've identified with transportation, affordable housing, real estate transaction acquisition and disposition, and also how do we take specific initiatives for the East Tampa CRA area, how do we get some momentum going in there? And so I've had more meetings than I can count right now with Bloomberg's, just really trying to identify scope. And to the point, it's up at the pleasure of this council if it comes back for any policy decisions for you, but this is an opportunity for the staff that is busy on a day-to-day to take on some of these special projects and focus specific on initiatives and projects that's dear to the city. So I would request that your indulgence in accepting this.
All right, and again, there's no cost to the city, correct?
That's correct. It's complete
So-
pro bono.
All right, so I'll let you go ahead and fill a couple of Mr. Carlson's questions,
Sure.
and we'll go ahead and move on. Mr. Carlson, recognize.
I mean, just like we just hired an internal candidate for police chief, and we've hired a bunch of internal candidates, we have people with lots of experience. I have about 25 years of experience in water, and the water department seems to completely dismiss all of it. I have about 30 years of experience of economic development, including advising the best country in the world at economic development, and nobody listens to it. We talk about inclusive economic development, and nobody listens to that. And so now we're going to embed an outside organization. I've worked with consultants. I've been a consultant, and you bring an organization like this so embedded into the organization, and you're going to get bias. Every kind of consulting firm has that, and it's one point of view. But it worries me because the consultants always bring agenda. I mean, Bloomberg's a great brand, and I'm sure they have fantastic consultants, but the guy who's the expert on competitive advantage of countries, Michael Porter, Google his name and that title, and you'll see the controversies in countries when they tried to advise them. And so my concern is that they're so embedded and there's no diversity of thought already, and the administration seems not to be listening to any of the internal ideas. And then the third thing, you just mentioned CRA, and I really object to that. We've been trying for 3 years to have CRA staff organize a strategic planning session just to find out what our board members think, and we haven't been able to organize that. So why would we have a consultant come in and tell us what to do when we haven't even talked to our own board members?
Would you think needs more discussion with Ms. Travis behind doors before we look at this?
I'm sure this will pass because Bloomberg's a great brand, but I've been around consultants in lots of countries and cities, and this is just too much influence from one consultant. So I'm going to vote no. If it's 5-1, that's fine. But I think we have to look at the.
What I'm asking is, do you want to, since you're adamant, you got other concerns, do you want to hold
all.
us?
If you all have questions, go ahead. I'm going to vote no. I don't need any more information.
I'm gonna move the resolution 2028, file number F-2273-330, see what happens.
All right. You just
Second.
moved, second by Mr. Citro. Roll call.
Vieira.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes,
Carlson.
No.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Goods.
I'm gonna go vote yes. I'm gonna lead on Ms. Travis for this. I do have concern, we talk about that CRA, especially East Tampa.
Just one point, council. I appreciate the vote of support to move forward with the
Let me-
Bloomberg contract.
Yeah.
She's gonna announce the
Motion
vote.
carried with Carlson voting no.
Thank you, I'm sorry, Celine. So just to the point with the CRA, we've taken the redevelopment plan and the strategic action plan. They're not making any decisions or changing anything that happened, strictly giving us strategies on how we can get more economic development jump-started in the area. These are the things that you want, and so that's what we're following through and doubling down with resources doing this.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you on that. Moving right along, we'll go, Mr. Carlson, back up to you again, 33 through 49, sir?
33 and 34 is a request to remove from the agenda.
Separate motion, please.
Move to remove items 33 and 34.
second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Motion by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call?
Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes,
And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
And I'd like to just pull 46 for a separate vote. I don't need staff.
I have 46, and I have an asterisk by 47. Was someone pulling that, or?
No, it was 46.
Okay, all right.
So I'd like to move 35 through 45, and then 47 through 49.
Second.
second.
All right, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call?
If I can just discuss this with the clerk, because we could save some time. In the past, we used to do the consent docket by voice vote, is that correct?
That is correct.
The only time we're gonna have to do from this point forward, now that we're all here, in order to save time, you can still do voice votes. If council still wants to, or the chair wants to do a roll call vote, you can. If it's we're not set up yet for vote and record for
Correct.
second read, so you'll have to do a roll call vote for that.
Wrong again.
But the only time you'll have to do, for these sort of things on the consent docket, a roll call vote is if somebody is appearing, one of you members are appearing virtually. Then we have to go to do a roll call. But other than that, to save time, I'm done talking, you can do a voice vote.
Go ahead and continue, sir.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, Mr. Carlson, you want to take up 46 now, sir?
Yeah, you all know how I feel about the EDC. It's not inclusive economic development. It's not the kind of economic development we should be doing, and so I'm just gonna vote no.
Move item 46.
Uh-huh.
Second.
Second by Mr. Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carried with Carlson voting no.
All right. Mr. Vieira.
Move items 50 through 58.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
All hearings are already open, I think.
Yeah, all the hearings are open. We have a
59.
petition.
Move to set, or schedule this public hearing, file number SU 1-22-19-C, to May 5th, 2022 at 1:30 PM.
Second by Mr. Vieira. You want a roll call on that, Mr. Shelby?
No, sir.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. All right, the hearings are now open, correct? All right, number 60?
And number 60 and 61, 62, and 63 are all non-quasi judicial.
That's correct.
And just a reminder, when we get to 62, it's a substitute, but we'll get to that. Thank you.
All right.
Good
Good
morning.
afternoon, Council. Ron Nealon. I am staff with Historic Preservation. Item number 60. At first reading, I did a complete presentation. There were no comments by council at that time. The motion was 7-0 to move forward. I'm here to answer any questions on the ad valorem in front of you this afternoon.
Any questions for the gentleman? All right, do we have anybody to speak on this item?
No one is registered.
Anyone on the second floor to speak on this item? All right, well, we're open anyway, so nobody on the second floor, all right.
Got nobody there. Move to close.
How we get back to the swing of things? You see that, Mr. Shelby, huh?
It's going to take some time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, move to close, move to close. Mr. Miranda, was that you, sir? Second by Mr.
Sure,
Carlson?
thank you, Chairman.
All right,
Item number 60, file number E2022-8, chapter 27. Move an ordinance for first reading adoption. An ordinance approving a historic preservation property tax exemption application related to the restoration, renovation, and rehabilitation of certain properties owned by Seneca Ventures LLC, located at 1619 East 8th Avenue, Tampa, Florida, and the Ybor City Historic District, based upon certain findings, providing for notices to the property appraisers, Hillsborough County, providing for severability, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date.
second by Mr. Vieira. Roll call?
Citro,
Yes.
Vieira. Yes. Miranda.
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, item number 61.
Good afternoon, Council. Susan Johnson-Velez, Senior Assistant City Attorney. Council, this is second reading on the ordinance that would repeal the noise ordinance amendments that council adopted on January 13th of this year. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We're gonna have a tie vote here? What is Great.
Great, great. Virtually? Registered, all right, let's hear the registered people.
That's the presentation then? That's all? We can go to public comment?
It's just an ordinance repealing the prior ordinance,
Okay.
2022-.
We take comment on that, right, Mr.?
Yes, this is a public hearing, though. It
Right,
is
so let's, Miss Deputy Clerk, she always wants to go to the phone lines first, so we'll hear that first.
Mr. George Grass, as well as Ms. Karen Cox online. They just need to turn on their video and audio.
All right, ma'am, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can
All
you hear
right, you
me?
can state your name again.
My name is Karen Cox, and I represent the Towers of Channelside Condominium Association. And with respect to item number 61, the ordinance that seeks to repeal the new amended ordinance, I've got some reverb here, I'm sorry, but I would state to you that the amended ordinance resulted from 2 years of work by the city with input from the citizens and the, I'm sorry, I've got reverb going on, I don't know how to stop it. But, so I'm just gonna read because the reverb is bothering me. The last minute opposition to the flawed and effectively unenforceable noise ordinance didn't raise any, anything new that was not already considered. Repealing the ordinance now is going to cause citizens of the city to continue to suffer from noise that has been plaguing the city for years. Please vote no on the repeal of the amended noise ordinance and let the ordinance go into effect.
Anything else, ma'am?
No.
All right, thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
The other speaker is Mr. George Grass. However, he has not turned on his video nor audio. Other than that, we had 3 other people register. However, they have not logged on.
Oh, hello, can you hear
There
me?
go Mr. Grass. Being that this is not quasi, I assume audio is fine, right?
I'm sorry, this is George Grass. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
I'm having issues connecting my video. Is it okay if I make my comments?
Yes, sir,
without
don't
a
worry
video?
about the video. It's not quasi, just don't worry about the video.
I'm sorry, could you say that
You
again,
can
please?
continue. You don't have to worry about the video, sir.
All right, great, thank you. My name's Daniel Grass. I've been a resident of Tampa since 2015. My wife and I, and we became residents of the Channelside District in 2019, where I'm an owner in the Towers of Channelside. I live on the 20th floor, and since my residence in 2019, due to different business establishments in this area, there has been a constant disruption of peace and quiet while staying in my residence. What I would say is that I have on multiple occasions had to call the non-emergent Tampa Police hotline due to extreme levels of bass that are rattling the walls of my condo. Again, I'd like to emphasize that this is 20 floors above them. And this goes on all the way until 2:30 in the morning. And this may happen during the weekday and especially is more prominent on the weekends. So when you're a citizen and you are given the option to call a non-emergent hotline for a noise complaint, there is no, I would say, urgent priority on the side of the Tampa Police to have to take care of this. So when you're calling at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night and you're still trying to get sleep, because you have to get to your job the next day, which I would like to say that I am a healthcare provider within the Tampa area, and I have to handle complex decisions. I'm sure as many of you guys do as women as well. And we all know that having adequate sleep is important for our well-being. And so having to constantly deal with this issue is very challenging on several regards when it comes to overall wellness, relationship wellness, things that interfere with quality of life. So in the last week, I have had to call the Tampa Police 5 times. Most of these calls have always been after 10 p.m., asking the same thing, that the tenants of an establishment would be respectful of the residents of the Towers of Channelside. So I would just ask that the prior amendments that have gone forth, that there be consideration that the Channelside district is not the same as Ybor, and that there needs to be some form of noise mitigation to help us find some equipoise as far as living in harmony where businesses can thrive, but also that residents can maintain a good quality of life. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, do we have anybody else registered?
There were 3 other people registered, however, they are not logged on.
All right, they're not logged on. All right, anybody in the public, speak on side.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I'm sorry about this morning.
All right, sir.
Reintroduce myself. My name is Dr. Stephen Schwartz. I'm a longtime resident of the Channel District. I am currently Vice President for the Association Board of Directors for the Towers of Channelside. I have some comments of my own, but I promised to read a letter of one of my fellow board members that meant to be here but couldn't, had to be out of town. So I'm going to do both as quickly as possible and should be able to do them well within the time range. This is from Michael Leeds. Dear council members, my name is Michael Leeds. I'm a resident of the Towers of Channelside and former Channelside CAC board member. Thank you for allowing my neighbor and fellow board member Stephen Schwartz to read my testimony today, as I needed to be out of town for a meeting and unable to attend the hearing. I'm writing this letter to show my support for the passage of the previous approved ordinance 2022-18, which was to modify the city's noise ordinance, in part removing the Channel District from the special exception areas. Specifically, I'm asking council to not support the above measure, which would repeal said ordinance. The Channel District has become a thriving residential submarket in the downtown area, and it is critical that the city of Tampa manage the balance between resident needs and commercial activities. Many cities across the state within the metro area, including Clearwater, St. Pete, and Sarasota, have accomplished this objective, managing noise levels in thriving downtown residential neighborhoods while allowing businesses to operate reasonable hours of operation where noise impact is concerned. Please take the responsible action and vote to reject the proposed case, allowing the previously approved ordinance 2022-18 to be approved. Thank you, Michael J. Leeds. We started talking about this in 2020 to the police, the council, and others to address the substantial and persistent noise problem plaguing the Channel District. Noise ordinance applicable to the Channel District has been unenforceable despite hundreds of calls to police. We were relieved and excited by the hope that came October 7th, 2021, following the first reading of the new ordinance, including a section addressing outside amplified sound. The new ordinance was set to take effect April 2022. We are now somewhat crushed by the move to repeal that new ordinance before it ever saw the light of day. City Council stated the new ordinance was rushed and needed more time. However, for the residents of the Channel District, this will extend our misery, which has been ongoing for 2 years without relief. We oppose repeal and feel it is a move which is akin to throwing out the baby with the bathwater. A delay will further put off vital actions of outdoor noise control and the 5-minute warning so very well needed in the Channel District. I feel it is almost feels prejudicial against the residents of the Channel District to further delay the relief for those of us who have been seeking help for so long.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good afternoon.
No, sir.
My name is Larry Rinderknecht. I am an owner resident in the Towers of Channelside. I am the first person to have moved into the Channelside, a residential district, and it remained that way until Aja moved in and we became a mixed community. Today we are a mixed community, but with a much different bar, a gaming bar, not a nightclub. I would like to thank you for all you do for our city and for your service on the city council. I recognize that we will not always agree, but I will always respect the decisions you make, even if I don't agree with them. I want to make it clear, we're not against all bars and the noise they make. In this case, we are against one bar and the noise it makes there on the first floor of the 0405 tier. I live in the 05 tier, 2205 as I said, and I felt it last night. The operating model of this bar is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. We hear it every night. It must stop, and we need your help to stop it. What is that noise? Well, it consists of bombastic music, screaming, hollering, cursing, fighting, all reverberating off of the structures across the street that weren't there when Aja was there. It is also, what the other gentleman earlier said, this constant beat with deep woofer sounds that reverberate through the rebar throughout the 0405 tier. That's where you come in. We need limits. Limits on the time that this bar can create this noise. I'm trusting that you will agree and see that this noise is not reasonable or acceptable in a residential community. Bottom line, the owner of that bar knew what he was moving into, a residential community, when he moved in there, and he must respect those of us who live there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Council. Ernest Mueller. I'm here to ask the City Council to go ahead and pass this second reading that would repeal those recent changes to the city's noise ordinance. Now, I agree there needs to be a new noise ordinance. But the city needs a noise ordinance that is balancing the expectations, reasonable expectations of the residents and their need for quiet, and the positive economic impact that the bar and restaurant industry has on this city. What we have now is an old, worn-out noise ordinance that we're trying to patch. It's like patching an old, worn-out tire. So I am urging you to go ahead and do this, and let's start over. It's unfortunate that the channel side aspect is also part and parcel of this. However, what the detrimental effect that this ordinance is going to have is, the big one is the taking away of that warning. As I've said before, in my experience in code enforcement, warnings have an 85% compliance rate. That means 85 times out of 100, they are going to work. And in our noise ordinance, which is enforced right now by the police officers, and the police officer data supports this, is that compliance rate is much more than 85%. And you get rid of that effective enforcement tool, that's going to be detrimental to the effective enforcement of any noise ordinance. So again, I'm coming back before you and saying, yes, we need noise ordinance changes. I believe that the industry, the bar and restaurant industry is galvanized. I know that my client has, and wants to make changes, wants to make effective changes that is going to be for everybody. So I urge you to keep moving forward with this repeal, and let's start over with a 21st century ordinance. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Council. Steve Michelini. I'm here on behalf of the Soho Business Alliance, which represents about 45 different businesses, 30 of which are restaurants. And when we first developed the code for the noise ordinance, you may recall that the warning was put in there to stop harassment and for incidental calls that may end up with citations. And as Mr. Mueller has already indicated, your compliance rate is 85%, and it may even be higher than that. There are issues that have not been considered with this new ordinance. They include atmospheric conditions, which affect noise. And many of you have heard about the stadium noise that bounces off the clouds and is heard all the way into South Tampa. Under the new code, this would become a violation. And it's not just the stadium. I mean, you have noise that's transmitted across water. We have issues regarding Harbor Island and music out there and downtown that bounces along down the bay and is heard as far south as Ballast Point. So anyway, we're urging you to continue with your repeal of this ordinance, or at the very least to insert into it the warning provisions that were previously there. They are protective measures, they're not onerous, and they do protect both the homeowner as well as the businesses. You can't afford to start issuing tickets immediately or leave the discretion up to the officer in the field to decide instantaneously to issue a ticket or not. The citation had a buffer in it, which was the warning that was being issued, and the compliance at most of the time, as Ernie pointed out, 80 to 95% of the time resulted in immediate compliance. So anyone who is a violator needs that chance and would request that you include that if you go forward with this or if you repeal the ordinance as it is. There's also a number of citizens that are standing by with a citizens committee made up of business owners as well as residents to help adjust and craft new provisions for the noise ordinance that would be brought back to you. So I would ask you first repeal this ordinance as it is, at the very least amend it, amend the existing ordinance to insert the warning provision back into it. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Anyone else speak on this item? Ms. Velez. You know, sometimes we go to tinkering with things, it kind of gets kind of messy, Mr. Miranda. But I'm a little confused today. This is approved, question. If this is not approved, that means we will have no noise ordinance on the book, period, correct?
Susan Johnson-Velez, Senior Assistant City Attorney. No, that is not correct.
All right.
There is a noise ordinance on the books. It's contained in Chapter 14 of the City Code. The ordinance that this ordinance would repeal merely made 4 very distinct amendments to the existing noise ordinance. So all this would do would repeal those amendments, but the ordinance as it exists, well, as it existed prior to those amendments, would still stand unless and until other amendments are adopted to change those. So we would have a noise ordinance on the books.
For whatever reason, I know we stopped the community conversation because I was under the impression the community conversations were going to continue, and then in April, we would come back and insert whatever we need to do to make the ordinance strong because would have heard from the business community and the general public at large. So we stopped those. So where are we at with that process? Because no matter what we do, it's not going to be perfectly right to get close because people still have concerns from downtown, the channel side, the business community. So no matter whatever we do today, we still have the issue of making sure we're never going to make everybody 100% happy. But we're still going to have the issue of we're still not engaged with the people and the businesses to craft what we need to craft. So I think that's what the problem I'm really having with all of this.
Well, and Mr. Chair, so what happened, we did have the first of those community meetings on February 15th, which was 2 days before council originally took up this repealing ordinance. We got a lot of questions from the members of the public. If council is going to repeal the noise ordinance amendments, what's going to replace them? What are you going to do now? What's the new proposal? And there was no new proposal. Staff didn't have any direction from council as to what way they wanted to go if it wasn't with these specific amendments that we had previously, presented to council. And so that was the concern, was that we didn't have any response for the community, and without further guidance from city council, we really were at a loss as to how to move forward with getting comments from an ordinance that was scheduled not to exist anymore.
But I think per Mrs. Travis' memo, have you guys met with council members to kind of see the direction that we need to go now? Because to me, we're still at a stalemate.
Well, and we'd be happy to meet with individual council members, but of course we would need a motion from council as a body. That's where we take direction. So, and I know when I have had previous conversations with individual council members, and there really wasn't a consensus as to how we should move forward. And so we really were trying to get direction from council as a body.
Reference direction from council, tell me how your office and Ms. Travis' office needs to move forward so we can do what we need to do for the citizens at large and their residents and the business owners. That's all I care about, is how your offices can move the moves. Well, council is relying on you to get that information, because we can hear from the public, but you're gonna be ones to craft what we need to craft to make some concessions to some of the complaints of the citizens and the business owners. So that's the direction that I want to hear about, to talk about.
Good afternoon again, Council. Nicole Travis, Administrator of Development and Economic Opportunity. Councilman Goods, from the legal office and from my office, we are going to carry forth whatever direction council provides. So so I understand you want staff to tell you, we workshopped the items with you, and the council voted on those 4 items. That was our direction to then go to the community and have public meetings. Now that you are repealing that, we're not sure what the direction is. So we need to know what the boundaries are. You've heard from the residents in Channelside. That was an undisputed area of the proposed amendments to change Channelside to plainly audible. There was no questions by anyone about that, but it is wrapped up in this amendment or
that's where I'm
repeal.
confused, because I'm thinking
Yes.
that those points we talked about, you were gonna go back and hear from the community about those points. So I guess maybe it needs to be something on the table about those points to be able to insert, to get
We need direction from council on which points or which amendments you want to move forward with, so that we know what we're talking to the community about. Right now, we're not sure, so.
We'll go to Mr. Carlson, because he's been holding his hand up, then we'll go to Mr. Vera, then Mr. Seatrick.
So just to remind everybody, we and staff spent a couple years working on the 4 changes, and then we passed it, and as much as I like former council member Dingfelder, then it sounded like he heard a lot of feedback from Ybor City, and so he said, instead of fixing an ordinance in place, let's cancel it and then start over. And I objected to that because I think the ordinance, let's just call it the ordinance with the 4 changes, that goes into effect when, August or something like that?
It would be July.
July. Okay, so what we did is we put it far out so that we would have plenty of time to have public input, and then we could change it. But at least we have the structure for something that we have. If we cancel that part today, then we have to start over with a whole new process and propose something completely different. And so I'm going to vote against canceling the 4 changes again, because I think it's better to listen to the public and modify it. Also, the strength of the fact that we have given staff and the public direction that we want to pass something by having left the 4 changes in place gives more reason for the public to come participate and give us feedback, and then we can meet well before July to try to edit whatever we need to do for Ybor, and then move forward. So I'm going to vote against this again. Because I think it's better to edit the 4 points than to go back to 0.
I think what Mr. Dingfelder's point is that, and you're right, because I was under that impression too, and I understood Mr. Dingfelder was saying, is that the business owners look at it as, if we go ahead with the original and have that timeout, they don't know how to handle their businesses, because they don't know if they start booking people to start doing things, and this happens, now they lose money or potentially have lawsuits. So I think that was the concern. So it's kind of like, how do we fix that portion? I think you can move forward what you're saying, but how do we fix that portion for the business owners so they feel they can still do their bookings or whatever? Is that grandfather to let them into that point or what have you? So I think that's the concern of the business owner, which the ordinance I thought was good and crafted, but it needed a few more tweaks with the Ybor Entertainment, some other issues. But the big portion is, if we had moved forward, there was concern that how could they deal with their bookings and continue their businesses. So I think that's their major concern, Mr. Carlson. I'll let you go and finish that.
Yeah, just my second bite. The main point of contention was the outdoor amplified sound after midnight. And if you look at most of the venues in Ybor, most of them primarily have indoor capability, but there were several that have outdoor. but we're not shutting it down. One of the buildings has like 5 floors, this would only impact the top floor, and it doesn't mean they would shut down. It doesn't mean they can't have acoustic noise, as I understand. They can have acoustic guitar. They just can't have amplified noise after midnight. And so it doesn't affect a lot of, it does affect some businesses, but it doesn't affect most. And it also impacted performing arts centers like the Cuban Club. And so we need to make a carve out for them, and we need to talk to the business owners in Ybor that have outdoor amplified sound and try to figure out if there's some kind of compromise that we can add. But we're talking about, I think, less than 10 businesses that we're trying to address, as opposed to thousands of residents who want a solution.
Mr. Vieira, then we'll go to Mr.
Yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, just my thoughts. I think the proper way to go, just upon review, discussing with staff, and I appreciate all of y'all's hard work, 100% on this. I know that's it's been difficult with a lot of back and forth, et cetera, is to, number one, there's been discussion, and some folks talked about it, about some sort of a citizens committee. I think what's clear is that Channelside needs help now. I think that's very important. People are showing up for this. You know, when we voted to repeal this, I think it was based on a lot of concern from Ybor City communities, business communities that have been ravaged by COVID-19, now getting back on their feet, and then suddenly looking at regulations that may have been repealed after they're going to make all of those changes and preparations a couple months, in a couple of months, repealed before it takes place. Talk about convoluted. You know, when I take a look at Channelside, like I talked to some of the folks at Channelside about a week ago, you know, you have on one side, you got Ybor City Entertainment District, then you got Tampa Palms. Somewhere in between that is Channelside, and we need to accommodate for that. So what I would like to see is for us to move forward from this ordinance so that we can, like has been said before, deal with the unique issues involved in Ybor City. I think that the ordinance as crafted would pose a threat there. So therefore repeal, do some sort of a committee with like really fast. Like, you know, moving forward with it really, really fast. And then also equally fast, moving forward with immediate relief through an ordinance for Channelside. That's what I think.
So what you're saying, Mr. Vieira, is move forward with this and let them craft some stuff to add to what we're saying, correct?
Repeal, committee, immediate relief for Channelside.
Mr. Citro, Mr. Rand, Mr. Citro was please.
Thank you very much. It's all semantics, in my opinion. We had an ordinance. It wasn't going to go into effect until July. We were to come back in April and discuss it further. Now we repeal the ordinance. We have to start anew. And we're going to talk about it again. In my opinion, it was semantics. There was a noise ordinance meeting set for Tuesday. We could have had 2 meetings under our belt that would have been with the public, business owners, and everybody else concerned about this. Now, in my opinion, we're 2 months behind. On paper, it looks like it's going to be a 3-3 tie vote about this. Something's got to give. We're spending a lot of time talking about it. There are still people that are complaining about a place down on South McDill that shouldn't have been a bar, in my opinion. I've got bars and this city has got bars and restaurants opening up that are infringing upon neighborhoods. And those people want to go to sleep at 9, 10 o'clock at night, but that bar is going to be playing music after midnight. There's a noise ordinance that needs to be city-wide. We could have had this discussion for the last 2 months, deciding on what may be an entertainment district, what may not be an entertainment district. We're 2 months behind. If need be, we need to move forward. Somebody's got to change their vote somewhere. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Miranda?
Chairman, I just want to say this. I don't want to hurt anyone. That means business. However, I don't want anyone hurting someone. What does that mean? It means exactly what it says. So, and I said this before, you didn't have any problems. Everyone had, some rooftops had music open, Some didn't have it way back in the 50s and the 60s. But the amplifiers weren't as strong as they are today. You get an amplifier this big, it's 10 times, 100 times more powerful than one the size of this building when I was a kid, because of the amperage they have in it. So when do we start hurting people? It's not at 9 o'clock at night. It's not at 10 o'clock at night, between the hours of 10 and 2 in the morning. So there ought to be something to have to do with the volume, where it's heard, how it's heard. People have to sleep. Businesses have to succeed. So somehow they got to mash together and come to an understanding. And I believe both sides are right, but I believe one side has to give more than the other. Because if it affects people out of 100 days only 15 times, that means for 15 days they don't sleep. That's a lot to me. I mean, it's not 100%. If this thing solved 100% of the problems, we wouldn't be here. But we're here. Let's say it's 15%. So what does that mean? Every third day you don't sleep? Every 2.5 days you don't sleep? These are the things that you have to work out. And both sides are not coming to the table, especially one side, because I understand it's about business. I understand it's about having nice time and feelings and all that great time. I understand all that. However, somebody's got to sleep. And you have to have that ratio at a certain hour, those decibels go down. So people can sleep. That's all it takes. But they don't want to come to any agreement. So therefore, if it's a 3-3 vote tie, you go back to the old ordinance. That ordinance is still in effect until this one is passed. That's how it always is. And you'll have back again with meters that sometimes are not acceptable in the court, I guess. But you have to have things that work for both sides. And right now, we're not even close. So it's just, and I understand the one you're talking about, Mr. Citro, and I understand the rest of them. But listen, in the old days, and I'm talking about the old days, there was no drinking in the streets. In fact, it was blue laws, you couldn't even drink on Sundays to a certain time. Now blue went to the sky, and everybody can drink in the streets. So it is what it is. That's what society wants, that's what they got. However, if you look at the DUI ratio from when back to now, I think they got the wrong thing in a way. Because let me put it this way. If you don't drink, you can't get a DUI. And if you can't get a DUI, you'll never become an alcoholic. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. question. Mr. Rand, right, it's probably going to end up 3-3. It reverts back to the other ordinance.
Well, Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. So if the repeal ordinance is not adopted, then the ordinance amendments that were adopted on January 13th will stand.
All right, so they will stand. So what I'm wondering, if that's the case, can there be a provision so the business owners can know, it goes back to their bookings, it goes back to money. Can there be a provision or something provided to where we hold off and assure them, or say, listen, and give them that time frame, so if they do happen to book people or whatever before this thing goes into effect 4 or 5 months down the line, that they'll be able to adhere to those bookings or whatever, and they don't lose that or not sued because they're waiting on this council to make a decision. That's my only problem. Because my impression, we would have had that time to make it work or get a fit in there. And I don't have a problem making something work if I need to go to change your vote to make it work. But I need to know if I do that to make it work. That's my thing. How do I make it work to kind of ease the pain right now for everybody until we can actually get where we need to go? Is there an answer?
Susan pointing at me.
You're pointing at her.
Yeah, we're like either one. So a couple of things. It's really confusing for staff, and it's also confusing for the public where we are and what's the next steps. What is not confusing is what the residents of Channelside are asking. So if you were to move forward and repeal this ordinance, you will be starting from the beginning, and we'll be starting over. I agree with Councilman Vieira that you can appoint an ad hoc committee that is a mix of both residential representatives and the business owners to come to some kind of consensus and present to council some recommendations that both sides are happy with. So I think you can take immediate action if you were so inclined to repeal this ordinance, then make a motion to direct staff to draft an ordinance to pull channel side out from the business requirements and change it to plainly audible. Susan is going to correct all of my legal terms in a minute. That would give immediate, and you don't have to put a 6-month or delayed effective date for that. You can make that effective immediately once you approve that ordinance. The third is if you have an ad hoc committee, you have directed staff to come back regarding defining entertainment districts in May. And there's no entertainment district by definition in our code, so we need to figure that out. You can use that workshop instead to have a report back from this ad hoc committee that you appoint, and that we will have something a little sooner than later and allow the business and residents to try to find a balance, and we would work alongside them to do that.
So Vieira, the attorney, worked this out, didn't he, huh?
He just did.
I just did.
Yep.
May I? Thank you, sir. Yes, and that's what I would suggest is as a package, which is the 3 elements of a committee, immediate repeal, and then immediate relief right now for channel side. And I think what you said is important, which is we could be just like starting over, to quote John Lennon's greatest solo song, by the way. But I think that if taken as a package, we're not just repealing it. And I think that a lot of people in different parts of the city were very frustrated by the repeal because it sends the message that we're doing nothing. Well, by doing this, we're saying, listen, we're going to get people together, right, to deal with acutely affected areas, to balance out residential interests with business interests. I think something that, everybody's concerned about. We're going to take immediate relief for channel side. A lot of folks from channel side here, a lot of folks from channel side have reached out to me and to others. I think that's the way. If seen as a package, I think we can overcome 3-3. Maybe I'm naive. I am naive, but maybe I'm naive here, but still.
I think the package is the right approach, and it does show that council is trying to provide relief and are listening to both sides, so.
All right, well, Mr. Moran, Ms. Citro, Mr. Carlson, anything on that issue there, sir? The idea that Mr. Vieira and Mrs. Travis has come up with?
Vieira's a smart man, and I trust his judgment.
Yeah, he's a lawyer.
The thing is, we need help throughout the city, and we need more than just a 5-minute rule. South Tampa has sound problems all over, and Ms. Sheetzer mentioned this, and I would rather keep the thing as it is and edit it than cancel it. But if you all go the other direction, then I would just ask that the rest of the city has to be included. We have to look at our neighborhoods and figure out what's reasonable for neighborhoods.
She
And
can do that, right?
don't forget that this started, I think it started with Councilmember Citro asking the question, why is it that at every alcohol hearing, we have to ask about outdoor amplified sound, right? And so he was trying to address it systemically.
Yes. If you approve an ad hoc committee, you can direct that committee, that could be a charge of the committee. And my recommendation is to do this citywide and not on a piecemeal basis. Or that helps with enforcement. Every time, a law enforcement officer goes in, they have to look at the placard to see what your requirements are. And that would take you out of the business of asking that question with alcohol sales license, when they come before you. It takes the noise piece out of it.
Mr. Citro?
I call me foolish if you want, but we've been talking about transparency all morning long. This ad hoc committee, would it be a committee that is open to the public? Are there going to be minutes taken? Is it going to be noticed? Sure, I want to hear from the restaurant and bar owners. That's their livelihood. I understand. But what's more important is to hear from the public, the citizens that are living right next to some of these bars or down the street from these bars. So if I can get the guarantee that, yes, all these are going to be open, these are going to be noticed, that there's going to be participation from the citizens, I would be for that.
So,
Ms. Shelby?
Yes, if I can. If part of your motion is to delegate the authority to create that ad hoc board, you are actually delegating something that is going to be coming back with recommendations. So that would, I think by its nature, be a sunshine board. And that would be the requirements. If anybody thinks otherwise, please say so. But my understanding of the way the law is once you vote to delegate authority to come back with recommendations, you are, in fact, delegating, creating the sunshine board.
Good, I don't sound so foolish. Thank you, Mr. Shelby. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just a procedural point. Could we please just vote this up or down, and then if it passes, then maybe Councilmember Vieira can put his proposal in a motion.
All right, all right, item 61 in that case, all right, yep.
We have to, motion close?
Second.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco, let's close it. Mr. Brown, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're closed. All right, Mr. Maniscalco, you will take a stab at it?
Thank you very much. File number E2022-8, Chapter 14. An ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, repealing ordinance number 2022-18, relating to the regulation of noise, City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 3, noise, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second, and if I may, sir, if I may, this would be, even though, as Councilman Carlson correctly requested, this would be as a separate issue from the committee and the immediate relief from channel side, but in my mind, they're all together as one. But second.
All right, second by Mr. Vieira. Ms. Shelby, you want a roll call on this one here? All right.
Citro?
You go to me first, thank you. I want to vote no on this, but we need to move forward. I've already expressed my opinions on this noise ordinance. It needs to be citywide, so yes, I will vote for it.
No.
Carlson?
No.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
And Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried with Miranda
then,
and Carson voting no.
If I may I, sir? Thank you. And then I would make a motion with two parts, and please feel free to amend it. Number one, directing staff to report to us. We can get with the time. I would say, I'd like this as quick as possible. Let me ask you guys, how long do you all think you need for to come back with the specifics of the committee, ad hoc committee and whatnot?
What? Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just.
We're trying to think through the committee piece, and that's what we're talking back and forth. And I know that Adam Harden has probably reached out to some of you about a committee, just saying that there needs to be an approach citywide and balanced. I think it's really up to council. It would be your ad hoc committee. You can appoint the members of that committee where you incline. I don't know.
I don't see that approach. I really don't. I don't think an ad hoc committee. I see community meetings. You have the business communities. You have neighborhood associations. You don't need to go. We're going too far. The neighborhoods will speak their piece. You have the business owners. You know the entertainment districts. I don't think you have to go that stretch of having an ad hoc committee, all these things like that. I just believe you need to have neighborhood engagement. You need to have Janelle McGregor and her group meet with these neighborhood associations, come up with their ideas and plans, and then we put them all and we do what we need to do. I just don't think you need to go that far to having all this sunshine and all this kind of stuff. It gets muddy there. It starts to get political there. You just need to have good old-fashioned community engagement, talking to the residents of those communities, and talking to the business owners.
And if I may,
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And I would motion I'll try to put these into one motion. Number one, for staff to return to us in a month, 30, is that okay? And we can get the date on an ad hoc committee. And again, I know there's going to be a lot of things to fill in there to discuss it with all city councilmen, members, so we could come back on that. And then secondly, to draft an ordinance with no delay, incorporating immediate changes for Channel Side District for immediate noise relief. Long day.
April 21st?
Sure.
Ms. Shelby?
I'm going to direct your attention before you have any motions, just a reminder, I believe, and the clerk can correct me, but there is this matter that's still set, although when I read it, it doesn't make reference to the noise ordinance, but if I look at the third item down on the 28th of April, there's a workshop staff to meet with the community based on the feedback provided from the community and report on recommended amendments to the adopted ordinance. It makes no reference to what that is, but I assume
It is the noise ordinance.
it is the noise ordinance. So you already have that remnant, now that it's been repealed, you still have that workshop set.
We
for
can
this
take that
purpose.
off, I would assume, given,
Either that or
if I
you-
may.
Either that or use that space, one of the two, obviously, whatever.
I mean, it's a week before. They're coming back to us a week before, so I'd rather get it done a week before as opposed to the 28th. So.
So I would ask the council to entertain a motion with regard to resolving that issue as well after your motion. The other thing, council, is the concept of an ad hoc board created by council is going to be very different than the way the chair described it. It would almost take on a life of being almost like the Citizen Budget and Finance Advisory Committee, and to meet with individual council members to talk about the board. I just want you to know that it would be a sunshine board, and it would be much more involved to form an ad hoc committee of city council. That is very unusual to do. We've had one, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be asking council to put the Budget and Advisory Committee on the agenda to discuss. So that being the case, logistically, it creates a lot more complexity that would take a lot longer than I think this council wants to spend on it.
Mr. Carlson, you recognize?
You all probably know this from your appointees, but that committee that he just mentioned is, we're having a hard time staffing it and making sure that we get a quorum and sunshine and everything. And I think it would be better to either ask staff to come back with a public engagement process or ask them to have a certain number of meetings. I mean, ideally, I would recommend that we have, in an ideal situation, we would have 8 meetings, 2 in each district. Half of them would be business, so 1 business meeting in each district and 1 neighborhood meeting in each district. And invite all the neighborhood leaders in that district, and invite all the business leaders in that district, so you could hear from them separately. Although they might cross over, it would be good to hear from the business leaders, ideally by themselves, because then you'll be able to hear their specific interests, and then the same with the neighbors. If we could do that within a couple months, or that would be fantastic. We'd have a lot of information, and then I think the staff in the other meetings they've held have been good at listening to the public feedback, and you all can compile it and say, here's what we heard.
Thank you, sir. And I have no objection to that. I mean, and if that's where council wants to go to avoid the complexity issues, again, I think the dispositive issue is that we want to make sure that the city reaches out to all affected communities and then uses the talents of some of the people that have been mentioned for a potential committee, whether it comes through a committee or vigorous engagement. Either way is fine with me. I mean, I think it accomplishes the same goal. I'm fine with that. But again, so what I will do then is, if I may, is then amend my motion for number 1, for the aforementioned immediate relief for Channel Side to be presented to us in an ordinance. What do y'all want?
I mean, we can present that at your next meeting on April 7th.
Okay, let's do that. I know our friends at Channel Side would love that. And then number 2, for a plan of public engagement to be presented, y'all can come up with something, then maybe take that April 21st date to update us on the plan of action, how it's going, et cetera. Is that good with everybody? Is that?
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind,
Recognize.
make it 2 separate motions.
Okay,
for the
there you
sake
go.
of the clerk.
All right, motion on the floor in reference to immediate action ordinance for the Channel District.
To
Mr.
come
Beard
back on
made that motion.
April 7th, sir?
April
sir.
7th. All right.
I'd be fine with first
First
reading.
reading.
Let's get it, yeah.
Need a second? Second. All right. You want a roll call on that, Shelby?
No, sir.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Vera?
Yes, sir. And then second, for the aforementioned public engagement plan to be brought back to us for the status of it on April 21st, if I may. And- Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Travis?
Yes, thank you, council. So the public engagement piece, we have no problem with coming up with a plan and coming back to you. Again, I do need direction on what exactly are we taking to the public to ask them for comments on. We did that as a part, when we did the workshops. We did that, we did a lot of outreach, and we did a lot of public, and we narrowed it down to the 4 items that were in the amendment. Everyone wasn't happy, but that's how we got to the 4. So when we hold the public engagement piece, I need a little more direction from you, exactly where do you want us to guide?
Yeah.
To come back, we need some guide rails.
Well, I think that's the behind the scenes look, we, a council member, that way when you're out there, you know what we're looking for. Each district is unique in itself. You know, I have a lot of entertainment districts. I call them entertainment districts. Some people don't, but it is what it is. Some of them are entertainment districts. And I think you have to look at, one, what is an entertainment district? Where they're located at. 2, you talk about decibel of noise, with your amplified sound. You know E-board. Everyone comes to Tampa to go to E-board. Okay, how you look at what you say. They want to be outside. It's hot. They don't like being inside and closed doors. And most of the business owners have outside entertainment. So it comes down to that, and it comes down to what decibel and what time. I think that has to be discussed with the business owners, because you have a lot of people employed, waitresses, bar backs, these guys, they're working at night outside in the open air. So we have to look at that as another aspect. Then you look at your neighborhoods. What is the neighborhood saying about boom, boom, boom? What time should that be cut down? I think fourthly, you look at what would be the police's role as far as citations or 5-minute warnings, whatever. I think those are some of your key components to your noise. I mean, and again, some people have to be explained, you know, if there is you saw some folks talk about the building. I can't help because where a building was constructed. Now, you know, you have to look at Mr. Randall said, a lot of this new music and stuff, it's a different time and era of how they make this stuff. And it is loud, so it has to be characterized. Okay, if it's inside of a building, how loud or what the amps can be inside that building, so it doesn't vibrate on the rebarb or on the building. I mean, but you to a business owner, when people hear noise, people are looking to see where the noise is coming from, and they want to go where the crowd at. So it has to be to where what or how much sound can be in that building. You know, if it's a levels, and you might have to do a study. You might have to have officers go out to some business owners and some community leaders go in and turn the music up and say, well, what's tolerable? Where is it at? And for me, those probably my main points, per se. Any other, we can chime in, that we can bring this in for a landing before 3 so we can move on? Anyone else?
A motion then.
Mr. Rare, make the motion.
Yes, and again, what I would ask is that a community engagement plan be presented to Tampa City Council on April 21st. And I mean, just for the sake of time, because I think if we start to go on specifics, and I say that respectfully.
I think we.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. So that's my motion, thank you.
If I may, I'd like to include, I will never have to ask another bar or restaurant if they're gonna have amplified music. I think it's that simple for me.
Add no to his amendment?
Thank you.
You're taking it, Ms. Take it on?
No, I just made a statement.
So you have it on your list, all right? Second by Mr. Maniscalco.
Yep.
We have all the 6 points, correct, or possible points? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Shelby, you recognize.
And yes, Mr. Chairman, for the sake of cleaning up the agenda, to remove that item regarding noise from the April 28th workshop.
So moved,
All
second.
right, Maniscalco has moved. Mitchell seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
And I, just so you all know, I agree with Mr. Citro on the amplified sound. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it just me, or has it been a day, man? All right, we've got through 60, 61. We'll go to 62. All right.
Rebecca Johns, Assistant City Attorney. Good afternoon. This is the second reading on the Tenant Bill of Rights and the prohibition on source of income discrimination. We provided you with a substitute ordinance. Initially, the ordinance provided for a March 1st date of commencement of penalties. Due to the timing and to give us time to educate the public, we pushed that date down back to June 1st, but everything else is as it was in the initial ordinance.
All right.
So we are here if you have any questions.
Any questions for the lady? No. All right, being none, anybody in the public speak on this item? Anyone registered? We have people registered. All right.
I have Ms. Jean Strohmeyer. If you could please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, we got you, Jean.
Hi. Good afternoon. Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. I see some
All right,
green.
thank you.
Everybody else is being pinched virtually. This is the tenant bill of rights issue, and just I was a landlord once, and frankly, I think the landlord-tenant relationship should be left alone. If and I never cared where the money, anybody's money came from, and I don't know that who does, but I just feel that this is going to put an undue burden on like small landlords, like, that might have one property, maybe, maybe a elderly person ended up with a property and it's going to have just, if they have to take money, say from Section 8 or any governmental entity that requires inspections, then if they take the money because they can't refuse it, then they're going to have to be inspected. And frankly, I wouldn't, I was a good landlord, but even still, I still wouldn't want somebody coming in, if I make an agreement with somebody for X amount of dollars for my apartment or unit, then it should be just that, and it shouldn't be anybody's business what I agree to with a contract with a tenant. And that's just simple, basic contractual law. We can contract that they have to live there in the mansion. They have to, mow the grass. Whatever the contract is, that's our business. And I don't think anybody should be able to inspect it and have the right to do that. So that's kind of my take on it. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Okay, that's it. Have a great, happy St. Patty's Day.
Thank you, Jean. Next speaker.
The next speaker I had was Stephanie Parner. However, she is not logged on at this time.
All right, we have nobody else in the audience to speak on this item, correct?
Second.
It was closed by Mr. Maniscalco, Mr. Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Crosby, can you handle number 62 for us? With the substitute.
And before that, may I say something, if I may? I appreciate you. Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize, this is an ordinance that has been in place in the county. We haven't seen the sky fall in the county. I think to the contrary, what we've seen is tenants in a lot of apartments in different places, number one, know their rights on habitability, know their rights on discrimination, issues like the 1968 Fair Housing Law, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen people empowered knowing their rights that were very, very hard fought for. And second, this is an anti-discrimination ordinance. This is an ordinance that fights discrimination, saying that if your lawful source of income deals with something like a housing voucher, Section 8, if it's SSI, if it's SSD, if it's veterans benefits, you may not discriminate based upon that lawful source of income. It doesn't say you have to take the person, doesn't mandate that, just that you can't use that as a consideration to deny somebody housing. And given our housing crisis that we obviously have with rental prices going up about a quarter over the last year, this to me is just a modicum of dignity whenever it comes to this issue. So I look forward to passing this, and I thank everybody's hard work. Chairman Goods for first bringing this up. Thank you, sir, and I thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Ms. Carlson, I'm sorry.
Yes, and thank you for that description. That was helpful, I think, to everybody. I'd like to move file number E2022-8, CH12, ordinance being presented for second. Yeah, I was about to read it. Okay, substitute ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, amending the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, to add Article 7, Tenants' Bill of Rights, and the prohibition of source of income discrimination in Sections 12-140 through 12-145 within said article, providing for a title, providing for definitions, providing for requirement to provide tenants with a notice of rights, providing for a title, providing for prohibition on source of income discrimination, providing for enforcement and penalties for violations, providing for exemptions, amending sections 12-4A, 12-5E, 19-4A, and 23.5-4 5D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances in connection with this new Article 7, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call?
Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Viera,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, item number 63.
Good afternoon, Council. Stephen Benson, City Planning Director. I do have a presentation, if staff could please pull that up. This item is privately initiated text amendment, and it's before you for a second reading today. Next slide, please. The subject amendment was processed as part of the July 2021 text amendment cycle and included a total of 9 code sections. The workshop was held in March of 2021, and objections were issued for items where staff had major concerns and requested modifications. Based on these objections, prior coordination, and public outreach, the applicant voluntarily withdrew 5 items, leaving only 4 items from the original text amendment request currently being considered. The applicants are Steve Michelini and John Lum, and those 4 sections are noted on the screen for your convenience. Next slide. The first reading was held on March 3rd, 2022. It was continued by council to March 17th today with a request for staff to review the information submitted and provide further evaluation. No additional objections are offered by staff at this time. The purpose of this presentation is to provide staff's further evaluation of the potential impacts to assist council in reaching a determination. I will review each item and provide a summary of the cumulative impact at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. The first item is section 27-162, yards between residential buildings. The current code allows for when a residential development contains more than 1 building, the required structural separation is based on a calculation associated with the building massings, the length, the width, and the height of the building. The proposed modification is to remove the calculation requirement and establish a standard for yards between buildings at a set 15 feet. Next slide. The proposed change will create a uniform application of the separation distance requirement. As far as impacts go, impacts will vary depending on the constraints of the underlying zoning district, as well as site-specific details that affect that formula calculation. And those inputs include the proposed building setbacks, front, rear, and side, the length of the walls, the lot size, and the dimensions. All of these factors are going to address whether or not the calculation comes out higher than 15 feet or lower than 15 feet. So it's going to depend. The affected zoning districts where the subject uses that this affects are allowed, however, account for 88% of the city's land area. Next slide. The second item affects the official schedule of district regulations, 27-156, the RM24 zoning district. The current code allows that for each foot of building height above 30 feet in the residential multifamily district, the required yards shall be increased by 1 foot. And the diagram on the right shows conceptually what that means. That step-up requirement, which is what we call it, it's a 1-for-1 increase above the 30 feet in height. And you can see as the height increases, the setbacks have to be increased, and that begins at 30 feet. Next slide. The proposed modification is to footnote 2, which removes the 30-foot height threshold and replaces it with 35 feet. And the impact of that is shown in purple on the conceptual diagram. Next slide. The applicant is requesting this amendment to create more consistency in the residential building forms up to 35 feet and reduce the need to seek waivers for structures up to 35 feet that comply with the same minimum setbacks that are currently required for buildings up to 30 feet in height. So it's the purple area, but the purple area below the 35-foot line. Next slide. So you can see here the comparison of before and after, what that means for both buildings up to 35 feet and then buildings above 35 feet. That additional building envelope is shown in purple. Next slide. This is important though. For buildings that between 30 and 60 feet in height, the amendment also allows for the following. Exterior walls may be placed closer to the front, rear, and side property lines than what would be allowed under the current code. The exact location of that line still depends on the height of the building, but walls exceeding 35 feet in height may be placed up to 5 feet closer to the property lines in all directions. And that's shown on the screen there. If you see above the 35-foot marker, the top of that wall is now going into the purple, whereas before it wouldn't have been allowed to go into the purple. So that's where the walls are going closer to the edges of the property line. Next slide. It's been asked where the 30-foot number came from and what the significance of it is. The number is relevant to several other sections of the code. A total of 4 residential zoning districts require a step-up increase. Those districts are RM24, RM35, RM50, and RM75. All 4 districts use the 30-foot as the starting point for the step-up increase. With the proposed amendment, RM24 would be the only multifamily zoning district that requires the step-up starting at 35 rather than 30. While the amendment would establish a more consistent form for buildings in the RM that match single-family zoning districts, it also creates an inconsistency in the step-up increase when you compare it to all of the other districts that require the step-up increase. Next slide. Due to the flexibility in form, mass, and bulk in the existing code, the potential outcomes of the proposed amendment on individual site designs will vary based upon project-specific details. Staff estimates that the additional building envelope, that purple area, is relatively small, but could allow for buildings with a 5 to 10% larger total floor area than what would be allowed today in RM24. And we just want to note that the maximum density, or the number of units, remains unchanged. So the additional floor area would only produce larger units. It would not increase and provide more housing units. Next slide. Staff has now evaluated all the potential scenarios and associated potential outcomes of this amendment. This example is just one potential scenario and considers an ideal situation where no other constraints exist, which may impact the developable area. In consideration of the potential impact, the RM24 zoning accounts for about 2.7% of the city's land area. And then on to item 3, next slide. This is the visitor parking, number of on-street spaces. Visitor parking is required for residential single-family attached, semi-detached, multifamily townhouse style, and multifamily uses. The code requires 0.25 spaces per unit in all those cases. The amendment removes the requirement to provide visitor parking for residential single-family semi-detached units only. Next slide. This exemplifies what that discrepancy is. So both of these images are of 2-unit structures. The unit on the left, they're arranged side by side. Visitor parking is required on site, 0.25 spaces. The image on the right, again, it's 2 units, but they're organized on top of one another rather than side by side. No visitor parking is required. So when you go to put the visitor space on the site, where do you put it, and which unit do you give it to, and who gets to use it? That was made in prior presentations, that point.
Repeat that again, Mr. Benson.
Yes, sir? So visitor parking is required on site for the image on the left, but it's not required on site for the image on the right. So that's the distinction that this amendment is trying to correct. It's trying to remove it for the highlighted section to make them consistent. That's the intent. Because they're both duplexes. They both have 2 units in the same structure. Next slide. In consideration of the potential impact, the relevant zoning districts where the subject residential use is allowed or permitted accounts for approximately 6.7% of the total land area in the city. Staff recommends that council consider further review and updates to section 27283 to identify additional changes and provide greater consistency in the amount of parking required on site across similar uses, such as this specific situation. On to item 4, next slide. The current code requires that for multifamily townhouse-style designs, the front entry must face a street right-of-way rather than the side or rear corner lot lines. The proposed amendment allows front entrances facing the courtyards without the alternative design approval by the zoning administrator. As far as potential impact, the relevant zoning where the subject use is allowable accounts for approximately 6.7% of the city's total land area. Next slide. These 2 images show the impacts of the amendment and aid in understanding what the impact is going to be. Eliminating the requirement for doors to face the street has the potential to reduce the visual engagement of the street-facing facade, which is a common urban design concern that is typically addressed through transparency, such as windows, or through fenestration. In other words, the arrangement of windows, doors, and other openings in a building. Minimum transparency or fenestration requirements are a tool used in several existing overlay districts in the city to engage the street, create visual interest, and enhance the pedestrian experience. In addition to the aesthetic benefits, transparency requirements can also provide for for life safety benefits, such as influencing lower motorist speeds on adjacent streets, and the additional opportunity for what we call eyes on the street, which is a crime prevention through environmental design, a CEPTED best practice. So the image on the left shows the example that could occur with a zoning administrator approval today, that if the zoning that has the entrances facing the street, and the image on the right shows entrances not facing the street. But you can see it's a big difference, and it's not just because of the entrances, it's because of the windows and all of the other openings in the building. So it's a bigger conversation than just where the entrance of the unit is placed. Next slide. Staff recommends that council consider the development of an appropriate minimum transparency or fenestration requirement in section 27282 for multifamily townhouse design standards. Next slide. This is our conclusion statement about the collective impact of all of these amendments that was requested at the prior meeting. The proposed amendment may affect housing cost in some situations. The amendment does not guarantee, however, that all new housing units will be larger and that costs will increase as a result. The amendment also addresses the need for similar projects to repeatedly seek waivers in the future. This would reduce the discretionary review period and could thus facilitate a timelier response from the market in producing more units to increase the overall housing supply and calm increasing prices. Respecting both of these two perspectives, the amendment affects a very limited amount of land area citywide. Thus, staff concludes that the cumulative impact of the amendment on the overall housing supply would either be limited or de minimis. And then just to reiterate, the code sections that we're recommending for review are 27282 and 27283. This concludes staff's evaluation on this item. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Question for Mr. Benson. Just one. Mr. Benson, did you receive email from citizens in reference to their concerns? There were a multitude of them. Were they looked at in detail to make sure that make sure this council is making the right decision with this property text amendment?
Yes, sir. We pulled the relevant points out of those items, the salient points, and incorporated the ones that reiterated themselves over and over again into the points that you saw on the screen. So that diagram with the purple, all of that was based upon the input that we received from the public and from the applicant.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions, Councilman? All right, we'll take on the applicant now.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Council. Steve Michelini. We're the petitioners on this privately initiated amendment request. And I just received this 20 minutes ago or so. So let me just go through first, what we're requesting and how it's evaluated. The request came out of a number of meetings that we had with staff. This was a Builders Association series of meetings that started 4 years ago. And there were a whole list. There were over 90 items that came up as a part of that discussion regarding permitting and processing that were to be addressed. Over time, those were whittled down continually to the point where we are now left with 4 requests, and they are necessarily in order to establish the 35 feet as a standard for the height. And these are typically smaller developments. These are not huge developments that are towers. They came out because you had townhouse projects that were in the RM24 zoning classification, and then you would have to stair step up in order to get the 35 feet that if you had a single family house you could obtain by right. As a consequence of that, what's happened is frequently we're coming into city council and not asking for RM24, we're asking for RM18, which has a smaller footprint. You have smaller backs. You can build to 35 feet by right. So I'm not sure about how we got to the point where this is going to have some negative impact. It actually, it does not include. I know that there were some comments about somehow affecting affordable housing. I've examined this thoroughly, had builders and developers try to figure out how that adversely affects affordable housing, and no one can figure out how that happens. These are what we would, as a result, reasonable requests. It was fully vetted by the city staff, not once, not twice. This is the 10th hearing that we had, including the neighborhood meetings that we had separately that we were asked to conduct. The areas that are affected for 24 would be the same as if you had a single family. You would never suggest that if you built a house at 30 feet, that you would then be required to add another 5 feet of setback for a single family house. So I'm not sure about that one. The intensity of the design standards that Mr. Benson is talking about, you know, if they're in the code, you're inserting design standards. No one that I know would ever build something like that with no windows. There are other building codes that kick in. You have life safety codes. You have to have means of egress for emergency means of egress. Oh, can you not see it?
We got it now, thank you.
Emergency means of egress. This is typically what you have. And I understand their concern about, you know, not having fenestration, not having windows and things like that. But there are other building codes that affect that. And you also, why would you ever do that? You're preventing light and air from getting into the buildings. I want to, again, bring to council's attention that we had the support of the Planning Commission. It was vetted by the staff as well as the planning commissioners and forwarded to as a recommendation for approval. And again, the staff recommended this. They've come before you, like I said, a number of times in workshops as well as public hearings recommending the adoption of these requests. Let me go through the exact requests and try to explain what's happening with them. This was the last transmittal that you had until we got the new one today. And you can see there were, as most recently presented to you, there were 9 different proposals coming to you. That's now down to 4. This is the foot for foot issue regarding the going from 35 feet. Do I need to move that up? Going from 35 or 30 feet to 35 feet before you start the stair stepping. That is a typical residential height. The parking spaces regarding the townhouses, removing 1 parking space and not having a visitor space for 2 units. It only applies to a 2-unit development. Again, the staff has explained to you, and I think that we've explained to you that with 2 units, it's hard to figure out who controls and who owns that 3rd parking space. Who controls it? If it's a fee simple issue, then which one of the apartments or which one of the sides do you assign that to? It reduces green space. So we're constantly having to ask for green space waivers for a visitor parking space. That doesn't eliminate the already required parking spaces for the garage and the driveway space. This is the courtyard issue, and I showed you the diagram. If we want to start inserting design standards citywide, then all of the codes have to be reviewed for that, not just this one. But anyway, we're respectfully requesting that you be allowed to do that. There are other building codes that address the fenestration, the openings, and the windows. And here's a listing of all of the different meetings that we've had. One of the public outreach program that we talked to for over 2 hours. That was on June 14th. We've also had other discussions with them. This is the 10th hearing that we've had regarding this issue. And again, they've been refined. We're not asking for something that's not reasonable and considered in the code. So what happens if you have to go through the design exception? And we've submitted probably over 100 of them. They're approved. None of them have been disapproved, but what it does add is it adds cost. It adds another 60 to some odd 75 days to the process. And you all have been hearing about the critical need for housing. It delays that process, and it sends you into another process before you can get your permits. So, you know, we're asking for relief from that. If it were contentious and these design exceptions were not being granted, it wouldn't be an issue and we wouldn't even be here to talk to you about it. They would go through the other process. So it would either be a rezoning or it would be a design exception. When we talked about eliminating the calculation, this is the calculation. It's outlined and highlighted in D. We asked 3 different individuals, including Eric Cotton, Gloria Moreta when she was here, myself, and other builders. We could never come up with the same dimension that these buildings were supposed to be separated by. Now, this is a minimum setback at 15 feet, and if you go higher, according to the life safety code, you have to increase that height, the separation between the buildings. So this doesn't relieve any of these buildings from meeting other codes. It simply establishes a standard, and it says, okay, you're going to have a minimum setback of 15 feet. And you're going to say, well, how did we get to 15 feet? It provided for a 5-foot wide sidewalk and 5 feet of landscaping and green space on each side. That's how we got to the 15 feet. And that was the staff's recommendation from Gloria Moreta. We didn't just, you know, dream this up. We have a number of different examples of how it delays the process. If you look at the courtyard scenario, and I'm just going to throw this out, not that you could buy a lot for $100,000, but if you bought a lot for $100,000 and you had 4 units, that's $25,000 for each of the land parcels. If you have $100,000 and you can only build 2, that's $50,000 per unit for the land costs. So with respect to affordable housing, it actually makes it's less expensive if you allow the interior courtyards to exist, as opposed to, you know, in the linear picture that I showed you, staff had, if you only had these 2 buildings, you wouldn't be allowed to build any of the side units going down to the courtyard. So that's the relief that's being sought. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And again, this has been thoroughly vetted through the entire process. There weren't any secrets in here. This was not designed to somehow subvert the code. These are typical issues that go before the city planning office and the city zoning office for requests for relief, either through a rezoning or through a design exception. And this helps to expedite the process. It offers you elimination of a 60 to 75 day delay, plus the filing and design fees that are associated with that. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the gentleman? All right, being none, anyone registered to speak on the side?
Yes, I have Ms. Jean Strohmeyer. Ms. Strohmeyer, if you can hear me, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello again for the umpteenth time today. Okay, y'all can hear me, right?
We can hear you, Ms. Jean.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I've been listening to Mr. Michelini here, and just a few points to make. Number one, just because staff approves something doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. If you'll remember recently, the staff approved a chemical plant and abutting a apartment complex, and that wasn't a good thing to do. They didn't know about the chemical plant. It wasn't their fault, but again, they don't know what they don't know sometimes, but we do. So there's already been quite a few letters written into the file, so I'm not gonna go into that. I know Debbie Zommerman had sent some stuff, and I totally agree with her. And Mr. Michelini says just because they were from 9 pizzas to 4, that doesn't still make it the best thing to do for our neighborhoods. He says, and he showed a picture, they showed a picture of these shared roofs, and they're at the same pitch and all that, but I know in our last meeting, Mrs. Pointer showed a picture that showed the top of the floor and how it goes, the start of that floor started like halfway up the other building next to it. So that doesn't sound like a good valid argument. Let's see, we have, talking about design standards that we should have citywide, but Old Hyde Park isn't New Tampa. And, we can't have the same designs in Old Hyde Park as we do in, say, New Tampa or Palmetto Beach or wherever. So that's not good. And in this whole thing to me is, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's the fox mining the hen house. I have hens and I wouldn't want the fox anywhere near them. So lastly, I believe that we are short as city councilmen in this, and it needs to probably wait until we have somebody to take the position of the neighborhoods. Mr. Dingfelder was told to shut up. He was told on the record, if y'all will recall, on city council by one of these developer guys, they told him to actually shut up, if y'all remember the hot mic moment, and we didn't appreciate that. So we got a fox guiding the hen house, and we've got somebody that took our council out who is part of this this issue right now, and I think it just needs to maybe start all over again, because I don't think it's the right thing to do with the fox. All right, have a great day.
Yes, ma'am.
The other speaker we have was Stephanie Pointer. Again, she is not logged on at this time.
All right, anybody in the public speak on this item? Jennifer?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Jennifer Lotzner. I represent the Tampa Bay Builders Association. We are 1,100 members strong, and we represent all segments of the industry that provide the American dream of home ownership. I frankly was planning on coming here and supporting this item, and I thought everything would be fantastic and we'd have a nice, easy time, but I understand that that's not going to be the case. So I'll just go ahead and let you know, as the only paid person working on behalf of this organization and its members, these two guys spent an awful lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears doing the work of a volunteer member to help engage the building community and help bring forward some things that would streamline the process. This is something that's been discussed with the staff for many years. Every single month, TBBA meets with the city staff to discuss policy and process issues related to the building code. This is all open to the public. So while I understand and frankly I respect the concerns of the community, it's real simple, guys. There's only 4 components to building a house: materials, labor, land, and local regulations. You don't have the authority to control any of those except local regulations. I've got truss packages that have increased $30,000 a week every single week for the last 2 years. You're not going to address that. You're not going to address land costs, and everybody wants to move to Tampa Bay, build a house, and have a pool put in. That's what's going on. So all we're trying to do is come forward in good faith and present things that the staff agrees with and that most reasonable people can agree with, so that we can get through this process as quickly and as painlessly as possible. But I'll never have these guys come before us again if this is how we're going to do business, because this has been being worked on for 4 years. These people have been off my board for 4 years. Let's do the right thing. I beg of you. If you don't like it, then scrap the whole thing, but we're not going to do this again. I do appreciate your time, gentlemen, very much. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Mesco?
Not been sworn in. Oh, cool. Yeah, hi, John Lum, 2011 Bay Point Circle. And first of all, I'd like to thank you all for all the time you guys put in. And a morning like this morning, it's challenging, I bet, in a lot of ways for you. So thank you for your time. Probably, like I said, 4 years ago, we were sitting with Gloria Moretta and, probably 10 years ago, sitting on the ECC committee, which was the Economic Competitiveness Committee that the previous mayor had put on. I was on that board with Jennifer. And the idea was to come up with ideas that would make this city a little more competitive. And when there's other people think about other cities to go to, let's streamline some of our stuff. I've seen like pictures of, you know, all the rules and regulations in the city of Tampa. If the stack of paper is this thick, that much is Chapter 27 in the code in the city of Tampa. I mean, the zoning codes are very, very complex and very old. In a lot of ways, a lot of old stuff in it that isn't perfect and doesn't work all the time. So the idea was, how do we tweak some things to make staff more efficient, get permits done more efficiently without affecting the neighborhoods, and that was our idea. Glad you said the word naive, because I guess I was naive thinking this would be a simple thing, and we put some time in, like we did with the tree fund, with it, you know, the TCC folks would say, or TSS, see something, tree something, say something, folks. You know, we've met dozens and dozens of times with them to try and get the tree code redone, which we did. But that was all volunteer work on our behalf also. And I think we all love the city of Tampa. We want to make it better. And these were not, you know, done, these four amendments to slip something in, or not, you know, some job specific thing that would, you know, help somebody. This is just a global thing to try and make the city more efficient and make staff more efficient. And we just respectfully, you know, hopefully gets approved today. So thank you very much.
Anyone else speak on this item?
Move to close.
Mr. Maniscalco moves to close. Mr. Vieira, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Citro.
File number, file number E 2022-8, Chapter 27, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, ordinance City of Tampa, Florida, relating to a privately initiated text amendment, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 27, zoning and land development, amending Section 27-156. Official schedule of district regulations, amending Section 27-126, yard between residential buildings, amending Section 27-282.10, multifamily townhouse style design standards, amending Section 27-283.7, number of off-street parking spaces, providing for repeal of all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict wherewith, approving for severability, approving an effective date.
Second by Mr. Vieira. Roll call.
Carlson,
I previously stated my reasons for voting no, and to be consistent, we'll vote no again.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried with Carlson voting no.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Item 64.
Good afternoon, Council. Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 64 is REZ 21104, being presented for second reading and adoption for 6907 North Nebraska Avenue. The request is to rezone the property from Seminole Heights Residential and Seminole Heights Commercial Intensive to Seminole Heights Planned Development, allow for development of the property with residential multifamily uses. Site plans were dropped off at City Hall yesterday. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Barnes? All right. The applicant?
Good afternoon, Council. For the record, my name is Yoni Wasser. My address is 400 North Ashley Drive, and I represent the applicant on this item. Out of respect for Council's busy day, I'll keep this very brief. This rezoning received unanimous approval back on February 24th. Since that time, we have implemented all requested modifications. I thought I needed to be sworn in. Go ahead.
Hey. Everyone's going to speak on this item, swearing? All items? All items? All right. Anybody else? Okay. All right.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is
I do.
All right, continue, sir.
Excuse me. As I was saying, received unanimous approval on February 24th. Since then, we have implemented all requested modifications, including cleaning up our site plan, as well as adding a variety of transportation notes. We hope to receive Council's approval again today, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for the gentleman? All right, anyone to speak on this item? All right, anyone registered to speak on this item?
No one is registered.
Ms. Maniscalco moved it, Mr. Citro seconded it. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Vieta?
Yes, sir.
64, sir?
Yes, sir. I move an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption ordinance rezoning proper and general vicinity of 6907 North Nebraska Avenue, the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification SHRS Seminole Heights residential single family to SHCI Seminole Heights commercial intensive to SHPD Seminole Heights planned development residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Citro?
Yes.
Miranda? And Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Miranda being absent at vote.
Thank you, council.
Item number 65.
We have to move the resolution.
Move resolution.
Second.
Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Citro. You want roll call on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted. Item 65.
Thank you, Council. Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 65 is AB 2131, being presented for second reading and adoption for 401 South Howard Avenue for a special use to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages for a small venue, beer and wine consumption on premises only. Site plans were dropped off at City Hall yesterday. I'm available for any questions if needed.
Any questions for Ms. Barnes? Being none, we have the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council. Jim Porter with Ackerman, 401 East Jackson Street. I have not been sworn.
All right.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Chair and Council, we're here for second reading. We amended the site plan to prohibit outdoor amplified music as requested at the first reading. We respectfully ask for your approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? Mr. Shelby?
Yes, just a clarification. Was it, and this might be a question for staff, is it on the site plan, is it outdoor amplified music or outdoor amplified sound?
Music.
Music. And
Is there a difference there? Is music with sound?
is that, well, that's the question. The question, that would be a question for staff, but that's. It does say music, though. Was that the?
That was what I thought council's intent was. I mean, we have no objection to the word sound. Maybe Ms. Barnes can speak to that. But we were directed, citizen requested that at the first reading. We complied with that. I'm not wed to the language, but that's what I understood council's intent to be.
Is Ms. Barnes online? If council has any questions, I just wanted a clarification for consistency. That's the only.
Be a question for Ms. Velez, right?
Could be. Well, the site plan was delivered,
Okay,
and
so-
if it says
okay.
sound, I guess, I just wanted
Ms.
clarification.
Barnes, is she there? Ms. Barnes? There she is.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. I am pulling up the site plan now. Give me 1 minute. So the condition on the site plan, note number 5, says no outdoor amplified music shall be allowed on site.
Mr. Citro?
Ms. Johnson Velez.
Yes, sir.
Since I am speaking in hypotheticals today, I have been to many a bingo hall where it gets loud because of amplified calling of numbers. I have been to auction houses where it gets awful loud. Not saying that this is going to happen in a bar or restaurant, but is there a difference between amplified music and amplified sound?
Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. I mean, I don't know that that's a legal question, but I think certainly music is encompassed within sound, but there could be other sounds that are
I have
not
no objection to the word sound. I just was trying to follow council's direction. So if that can change it to
Thank you for
sound.
doing that.
Yeah.
All right, Mr.
Can
Porter?
how can that be done and still go forward on second reading? Is that possible?
I think we'd have to do second
Unless
reading.
it's council's pleasure, that's my, I just wanted to
I
clarify, I don't have a position.
I mean,
council.
I think I understood council's intent at the last meeting. We chose the word music because that's what we thought you wanted. I don't know if you can consider that a Scrivener's error. We can change the site plan to sound. I just don't want, for the sake of the client, to be delayed because of a word that we have no objection to. And
I'm, Mr. Porter, I'm fine with it as today, but this may be something we might want to talk about in the future. Especially with our noise ordinance.
Mr. Moran?
Anything that goes over a certain decibel makes no difference what it is.
Okay.
right, and keep in mind, council, this is a small venue, 10-seat restaurant. So I understand Councilmember Citro's concern. The space isn't there to do bingo, and it's not that type of event. So I completely understand, but I think the risk to any sort of violation is very small. But whatever council's pleasure is.
A microphone can be used for more than just singing.
So, Ms. Velez, I guess, I guess Ms. Velez, moving forward with your little notepad of things to discover, we might want to
Sound and not music.
Music, you know?
We'll make that note.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Porter, for that, sir. Any other questions, Mr. Porter? Anybody to speak on this item?
No one is registered.
Okay, anyone? No, yeah, no one else is in the house. Okay. All right, we move to close. Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Ms. Beard, did you read the last one?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Miranda, can you take it, 16?
I'll take it, even though last time I won't change my vote because I realize that this is item number 65, file number AB 2-21-31. Ordinance being presented for second reading adoption. Ordinance approving a special use permit SU2 for alcohol beverage sales, small venue, consumption on premise only, and making lawful the sale of beer and wine at or from certain lot, plot, or tract of land located 401 South Howard Avenue, Tampa, Florida, more particularly described as Section 2, providing that all ordinance or parts of ordinance in conflict are repealed, providing an effective date.
Second. Second by Mr. Vieira. Roll call.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Citro?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
And Goose.
I changed mine to yes because of the site plan, yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, council. And from now on, sound only, no music. So we'll go with it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item number 66. We're
Thank you,
getting
Council.
close,
Ian
gentlemen.
Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 66 is AB 2-2201. It's being presented for second reading and adoption for 2301 North Albany Avenue for a special use 2 for alcoholic beverage sales, large venue, beer and wine consumption on premises and beverage sales off premises consumption. Site plans were dropped off at City Hall yesterday and available for any questions.
Any questions, Ms. Barnes? All right. No question for her. We have an applicant. She's sworn in, please. All right.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the council. My name is Tumai of H2My Inc. I'm here representing that petitioner. The special use request is to allow for sale of alcoholic beverages for a large venue, beer and wine consumption on premises, and package sales off premises consumption. It's in the project location is in the West Tampa overlay district. Total AB sales is 5,922 square feet indoors, and the project site is for a wine tasting bar, offices, wine production and packaging, wine aging, storage with wholesale trade, and it's family owned and operated by Wine Stream Incorporated. We respectfully request your approval and adoption of the special use. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? All right. Anyone registered to speak on the side?
No one is registered.
Anyone here to speak on the side? We close.
Second.
Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Randall. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Carlson.
Yes, sir. I'd like to move file number AB 2-22-01. Ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. Ordinance approving the special use permit SU2 for alcoholic beverage sales, large venue consumption on premises and package sales off premises consumption, and making lawful the sale of beer and wine at or from that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 2301 North Albany Avenue, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in Section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, providing effective date.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro,
No.
Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Goose.
No.
Motion carried with Citro and Goose voting no.
All right, item 67.
Thank you, Council. Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 67 is AB 22202, being presented for second reading and adoption for 601 South Harbor Island Boulevard for a special use 2 for alcoholic beverage sales, large venue, beer, wine, and liquor consumption on premises solely. Site plans were dropped off at City Hall yesterday. I'm available for any questions you might have.
All right, any questions for Ms. Barnes? All right, you have an applicant? All right. All right, just raise your hand and be sworn in, sir.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, you state your name, begin, sir.
Council, Kevin Reale for the record for the applicant, and I'm just here to answer any questions. All of the requested site plan changes between first and second read have been completed, and we respectfully request your approval. Thank you.
All right, any questions for the gentleman? All right, being none, anyone here to speak on this item?
No one is registered.
No one is registered. Move to close. Mr. Miranda, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. File number AB 2-22-02. I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance approving a special use permit S2 for alcoholic beverage sales, large venue, consumption on premises only, and making lawful the sale of beverages regarding of alcoholic content, beer, wine, and liquor on that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 601 South Harbor Island Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in Section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, providing an effective date.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call vote, please.
Citro,
No.
Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
and Goose.
No.
Motion carried with Citro and Goose voting no.
All right, item number 68.
Thank you, Council. Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 68 is AB 2011. It's being placed on the agenda pursuant to Council Rules of Procedure due to a 3-3 tie vote on February 24th, 2022. The applicant is proposing a special use 2 for alcohol beverage sales for a small venue, beer, wine, and liquor, consumption on premises, and package sales off premises for property located at 703 North Willow Avenue. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Mr. Shelby?
Yes, is the applicant here on number 68? Are they available? I see no one here. Has anyone registered?
What do we do with this tie
Well, the
vote?
thing is, if the applicant were here, this is a continued public hearing, and it would need to be continued to a date and time certain. Certainly, if there's another 3-3 tie, then it would have to be continued. That appears that that's the situation. Without the applicant, the question is, how would they be able to be aware of when this is being continued to?
Ms. Susan Johnson-Velez?
If we don't have an applicant, would they be notified? But I just think in terms of notice, it is a noticed public hearing and it has been continued. You haven't.
Busy day.
Susan Johnson,
Yeah.
Les Legal Department. When this was continued at the first reading, the date and time was announced for
Today.
today, correct? So I'm not sure why the applicant is not available for city council hearing. However,
Could staff, would it be inappropriate for staff to reach out? Or otherwise, it would have to be renoticed, and that would slow things down. I don't think I just want to be clear that the applicant would know when it's being continued to. If the applicant were here.
Mr. Shelby, Ms. Barnes is trying to get our attention.
Oh, she is? I didn't see her on the screen.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. So the applicant and I believe agent are the same. It was announced at the February 24th, 22 hearing that it was a tie vote and it would be continued to this date at the hearing. So they knew that this meeting was gonna happen.
So it raises the question, if this gets continued now and the applicant is not here, how would we be able to assure that the applicant is aware of what council's action is today?
Can I also ask, are there other options besides continuing, or is that the only option?
Somebody changing their vote?
Right.
Right.
If somebody changed their vote, then you would have a different result, but.
But is there like a forfeit or something if somebody didn't show up?
No, it's-
Under the code, I have to check, I haven't checked recently, but I guess there is something about that.
Ms. Shelby, can we just continue the item?
Okay.
Move to continue to April 21st.
Could we direct or request that the staff notify the
Yeah.
applicant of the new date? Here's the question, council. The next regular meeting is April 7th, but that would be the literal first day of the tentative timeline of the 7th council member. The next date after that is February 21st.
21st,
April
the
21st.
clerk was the 21st.
Motion to continue this item to April 21st. We'll do it at 10:30 a.m. as it's already set, and that we notify the applicant so they are aware of this.
Thank you, council.
Be the first because it's the first time of the time, right? Ms. Scalco has moved it. Vera seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you.
I'll be right back.
69.
Good afternoon, Council. Ron Wigington, Legal Department. Item number 69 is an application to vacate an alleyway by Mako Car Wash. The alleyway is located in the general vicinity of 4438 Kennedy Boulevard, and this is the first reading. As I mentioned before, wide latitude is afforded to City Council when making the decision to approve or deny the application, and the factors to consider when determining whether it's in the public's best interest to vacate include whether it will relieve the public from the cost of maintaining the alleyway, whether it will alleviate a public nuisance such as illegal dumping, whether it curtails criminal activity, whether it will foster or hinder redevelopment of the abutting properties, and whether it will cut off or substantially diminish access to the properties. Mr. Ross Salmons is available virtually to provide his report, and I'm available to answer any questions afterwards. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to Ross. Swear him in, right? You sworn in, Ross?
No.
All right, she's gonna swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask the clerk to share my screen, please. Can council see my screen?
Yeah, Ross, you gotta blow it up for us, though. All right, we got it now.
Okay. Ross Salmons Development Coordination presenting file number VAC-21-18. It's proposed vacating request to vacate the alley line south of John F. Kennedy Boulevard, north of Cleveland Street, east of Hesperides Avenue, and west of Lawver Way. This alley was created for subdivision of plat of Rosemont subdivision. The alley is located in South Tampa in the West Shore Overlay District. This application was filed 9/20/21. The applicant owns property north side of the alley that is requested to be vacated. The applicant's reason for application is as follows. The alley runs behind the buildings. The alley dead ends at the east end and is unusable as an alley to access this block. This alley is in the West Shore Overlay District again, and no existing code violations for this property. The total square feet, approximate total square feet of the alley requested to be vacated is 4,050 square feet. The alley is partially improved asphalt paving at the east end and appears to be in use by the owner of 4430 West Kennedy Boulevard to access the building from the alley. A door opens onto the alley. The alley is unimproved at the west end. Wastewater, TCO, and Frontier facilities are located within the alley. The alley continues to the east only of the subject alley. The alley continuation is improved. Again, in yellow is the proposed vacating request of the alley in yellow and the property owner in red. And it does continue here to the east. Again, the alley proposed to be vacated in pink. Again, with showing it within the subdivision. The alley here is proposed to be vacated. The alleyway looking west from Lauber Way. And here's the doorway, 4430, that opens onto the alley. Alleyway looking east from Hesperides Avenue. Doorway accessing off the alley at 4430 West Kennedy Boulevard. The applicant's parcel looking south from Kennedy Boulevard. The abutting property owner looking south from Kennedy Boulevard and Lauber Way. The abutting parcels looking west from Lauber Way on the south side of the alley are considered park tracks by plat. And here's the continuation of the alley looking east from Lauber Way, and this is not to be vacated. The recommendation is staff objects to the vacating request based on responses received from Transportation Planning and Urban Design. If the vacating request is approved by council, easement reservations are required overall for wastewater, TCO, and Frontier. Available if you have any questions.
Any question for Ross? All right. Hear from the applicant now. Swear him in.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, council members. Todd Pressman, if I could share my screen with you, please.
You swear him in, correct, Madam Clerk? On it?
Yes, he's sworn.
Okay. You said it was Todd Pressman?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Can you see the PowerPoint, sir?
Not yet, sir.
How's that, sir?
We see it, you gotta get blown up a little.
It
We
has-
got it, we got it.
Oh, you have it, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Vacation 21-18, which has been well presented by the staff. Effectively, council members, this is the alleyway to nowhere. It's unimproved, emotionally unimproved. There's no history of travel by anyone in the public. It's in pretty bad condition. It's unsafe. It creates trash, and safety issues. You've seen generally where we're located on Kennedy Boulevard. This would be the alley there. This is Hesperides, and this is Lauber and Manhattan here. What you'll see is that the alleyway is blocked by buildings at this point. This is the unimproved alley and blocked at this point. So again, this is really an alleyway to nowhere. We talked to the property owners over here about potentially moving forward with a vacating. So this alleyway is unimproved as well. So again, we're blocked at this point and blocked at this point. It's not used for vehicle passage, as you can see. It's only partially improved. And by the test of time, the same elements in 2016, 2009, 2004. This is the closed at the west end. This is the closed at the east end. The alley next door is used for parking and for purposes of the business as it is here for partial purposes. You can see the condition that part of the alley next door is. We talked to the property owner next door at the other alleyway, and these are some of the unimproved areas of the alleyway that you're looking at. Now, one critical factor of planning is crime prevention through environmental design, which is SEPTED, which has 4 major functions to keep things safe, because these alleyways are dark, they are not traveled. The store next, the retail stores I talked to next door hire a number of young women. They don't like that there's darkness in the back and people tend or can't congregate there. And trash has also been a problem to keep them clean as a continual effort. Under the 4 bases of crime prevention, design, It doesn't meet any of them, in the sense that criminals don't want to be observed. They can hide in the alleyway. It's dark, it's overgrown, as I showed you. There's no access control in terms of people hanging out there. There's no lighting, there's no territorial enforcement, and there's really no terrible maintenance and management. There's no lights, it's overgrown, it's unimproved, and those conditions are very bad at night. So really, in summary, this is an alley to nowhere, mostly unimproved. There's no history of travel. There's no, in terms of test of time, there's been no use by the public. It's not in good condition, it's unsafe, and creates trash and safety issues. With that, Mr. Chairman and council members, we appreciate your consideration.
Any questions for Mr. Pressman? All right, anyone to speak on this item?
No one is registered.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
it is my understanding that there are certain city departments that would like to voice their position on this matter. I didn't know if anybody had
Okay.
joined us or not.
Jonathan Scott, Transportation Planning. We objected to the vacating. We didn't think there was a hardship, demonstrated. It didn't seem to be a public purpose as well. It seems like the Northeast business owner there is using it for access to their property. I know they mentioned in their presentation, but it still looks like they're using it to get into their property. That was our main objection.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Any questions for staff before I go back to Mr. President rebuttal? Mr. Moran?
Let me understand this. There's no need because they're already using it. I don't understand the answer. I'm not trying to be harsh in any way, but I don't understand the answer.
Staff want to talk that issue? Mr. Scott?
Jonathan Scott, Transportation Planning. I'll jump in. It seems like the business owner needs it to get to his property. I think the applicant had mentioned it, but I don't know if he made a reach out to that business owner. I haven't heard anything.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
One second, Mr. President. Let me let staff finish with Ms. Miranda. We'll come back.
Thank you.
I was going to ask Mr. Scott a question myself. You satisfied with Mr. Miranda?
Listen, I'm not here to get satisfied.
We'll leave that one alone, sir.
No, I mean politically.
Yeah.
I feel the Rolling Stones coming on here.
Mr. Scott, so you're saying that staff is objecting to the alley being closed because you feel that the business owner, that the section that they want closed is still using it, sir? Is that correct?
On the other side, on the east side, they're still using it to get to their property. They have to use that alley to get into the back of their property. Their door swings into it in order to get to it. And we didn't feel that there was any demonstrated hardship or public purpose to vacate it. That's all.
Mr. President, I'm going to get to you, but staff is asking the staff questions. So Mr. Carlson, good, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Scott, I think I understood what you're saying about hardship, but is there a public use for it right now, or do you think it's only used by that business?
As far as I would know, it would just be used by that business.
Does anybody else have driveway access or anything to that alley? Would anybody else's access be blocked by blocking this?
None except this one.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wiggin? Ron, anything else you had with that, sir?
I was also told there are other additional departments, including solid waste and urban planning design. So I'm not sure if they're on the line as well or not.
Okay, is any other staff on here? I mean, let's get everybody on here so we can be ready to go.
This is Andy Mikulski, Urban Design.
All right, swear him in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, so to address the urban design comments, this is more for future redevelopment potential. Let me pull up my comments here. So the West Shore overlay, we're going to, when the site is redeveloped, we would require that parking be to the rear or the sides of the property. So this alley was, ideally it's going to provide vehicle access to the site and would eliminate the need for multiple curb cuts on Kennedy Boulevard, which ties into the city's Vision Zero policy. So it's, in effect, the alleyway is going to provide kind of like a free driveway for the future development of that parcel. So that is what urban design's objection is for. It's going to affect future redevelopment and cause whoever, if it is vacated, when those sites are redeveloped, there's going to be a lot more. Each site's going to be required to provide vehicle circulation and parking, which is going to eat up a lot of the redevelopable potential for each parcel.
All right, any questions for the gentleman? No. All right, anybody else from staff to speak on this item? Anybody else from staff to speak on this item? All right, being none, we'll go back to Mr. Pressman for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure, with all due respect to the staff, as you can see from the pictures, this alleyway is barely wider than a car. So if it's, as they indicated, it would provide parking for this parcel. But to clarify, it does not require it for access to the parcel. They have access all the way along Kennedy and on the side streets. So when staff talks about vehicular movements through this alleyway and parking for this property, those two are impossibilities as they address each other. And again, to clarify, the property owner has plenty of access. This is not the access to the property. There is a door behind, but the main access is on the front and on the side streets.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, Ross?
Yeah, I would like to touch on that point that Mr. Pressman made about currently it's as wide as a car. Technically, it's platted. It's 15 feet wide. So technically, in the future, if something was developed there, to Mr. Mikulski's point, the developer would have the opportunity to maybe pave that, and it would be 15 feet in the future. But currently, yes, Mr. Pressman's right. But to Mr. Mikulski's point, it is actually 15 feet wide by plat.
Well, that's still negated by, the staff has been saying that the purpose would be for parking for the property owner. And no one sought to use it since we have aerials from 2000.
All right, staff, Mr. McCluskey.
So just to clarify, it's not that we would, if someone were to redevelop this parcel, that they would park in the alley, but their parking lot would be accessed off the alley. And it's something that we're running into, and especially in Seminole Heights along the the Florida and Tampa corridor, is we're trying to make it more walkable, but it's really impossible because there are no alleys. So a lot of that we have to give access to vehicle access in the form of curb cuts along the corridors, which really kills walkability.
All right, any further questions for the applicant or staff?
Sidewalks right along Kennedy Boulevard, 25 feet from the alleyway. I don't know why people cut the alley when they have sidewalks right there.
All right.
With all due respect to the city staff.
Okay. Any further questions, gentlemen? All right, move to close.
So moved.
Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Vera, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Who'll leave off? I'll leave off on you, sir?
I last for this.
Ms. Citro.
Councilman Seacon.
Thank you. File number VAC 21-18. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration in ordinance to the City of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning a right-of-way alleyway located south of Kennedy Boulevard, north of Cleveland Street, east of Hesperdee Street, and west of Lauber Way within the Platte Rosemont subdivision, a subdivision in the City of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 thereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, and restrictions as more particularly set forth herein, providing for enforcement and penalty for violation, providing for definitions, interpretations, and repealing conflicts, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
Second. Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda, and Goos.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on April 7, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
All right.
Thank you,
item-
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members.
Item number 7.
It's the last one.
Last one.
We did it.
Good afternoon. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Item number 70 is a petition for review that was filed regarding a architectural review board hearing for the property located at 714 South Boulevard. The ARC case number is ARC 21-557. The property owner asked the Architectural Review Commission to approve a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 16 feet with 3 feet for eaves and gutters. The Architectural Review Commission heard the request on December 9th of 2021 and denied the variance request by the property owner based upon the property owner not meeting the hardship criteria as set forth in Code Section 27-114, specifically subsections 1 and 5 of that code section. City Council was previously provided the relevant code sections, which is Code Section 27-114, the rules of procedure and sample motions regarding this particular item. The standard of review, as according to Code Section 27-61, subsection J2, is a de novo standard of review, meaning City Council can take testimony, receive new evidence, and make a decision to determine whether or not the petitioner has met the hardship criteria that's set forth in Code Section 27-114. Mr. Vila with staff will give an overview of the application request before the Architectural Review Commission and explain further the hardship criteria that I previously provided. And that's again 6 items that the 6 subsections that the property owner must meet for the hardship criteria. After taking the public testimony and receiving any evidence regarding this item, City Council can take 3 actions, has 3 options regarding this petition for review. City Council can affirm the architectural review decision and deny the variance that was requested by the property owner. City Council can remand the item back to the Architectural Review Commission with specific direction for the board to consider. Or lastly, City Council can overturn the decision from the Architectural Review Commission and thereby grant the variance requested by the property owner. At this time, I'll turn.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Forgive me for interrupting, but before you turn it over to Mr. Vila, just a reminder, council, that if you have any ex parte communications relative to this, that you disclose them at this time. And also with regard to any written documents that have been received, if we could have a motion to receive and file.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
Motion filed by Mr. Maniscalco, Senator Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
My apologies. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. Ron Vila. I'm staff with Historic Preservation, and I have been sworn. Can I share my screen at this time, please? Is my screen available to everybody?
Yes. You can blow it up for us, sir, Ron.
Excuse me?
All right, we got it.
Thank you, sir. So to provide you with some background and some information moving forward, I'm going to go through a brief photo presentation. The property in question is highlighted in the screen parcel. The address is 714 South Boulevard, which it fronts to the north. You have Swan as a cross street. You have Bayshore Boulevard to the east and to the south, and then Inman to the south. There is a 16-foot alley that runs north and south behind the subject site. If you look at this block, this is on the Sanborn map from 1929, showing the fabric and the layout of the structures in the early 1900s, you see the depth of the parcels here. They are all consistent within this block with the subject site within this lot. The next is an aerial. I wanted to provide you with a point of reference. Property in question is highlighted in the green box. Once again, this is on South Boulevard. It's just to the south of Swan. As you come down Bayshore Boulevard, you head into Hyde Park Village down Swan, and you head south on Boulevard. Inman is the cross street to the south. To get familiar with the primary structure, this is the front elevation of the subject site. Looking at the front elevation and the north elevation. And then looking down the vehicular corridor, that dead ends to an accessory structure. The abutting structure to the north is this contributing structure. Going back to the subject site, this is the south elevation with all the vegetation that is there. The property to the south. Abutting is this one-story structure. Looking down South Boulevard towards Bayshore. Then in the other direction, looking back towards Swan. This is the property directly across the street. Focusing on the structure and the parcel in question, this is the rear of the subject site. Currently, they have an arbor in the back that is about 16 foot from the property line, the vertical aspect of it, and then it has these cascading stairs that wrap around. This will come up in a future discussion. So I wanted to share these pictures with you. This is currently the rear elevation that has this vertical arbor, open to the air on all sides. And the current rear yard with the arbor. That concludes the photo presentation. Going into the application itself. The application came into the office for an addition to a one-story porch and enlarged the kitchen on the rear of the property with a variance to reduce the rear yard from 20 foot to 16 foot. As part of the variance hardship criteria moving forward, there's 6 criteria that are in the historic districts that have to be adhered to. When I read the motion that for denial, item number 1 and item number 5 was the condition that the board felt that was not met at the public hearing. This is the existing site plan, and this is the proposed site plan. Just moving through the existing site plan, this is the front street, which is Boulevard. Everything that's under your review is in the back. So this is the existing condition. This is the arbor that shows the hatched line in here. This is the cascading stairs that wrap around the arbor. The current setback is 15 foot 9 inches. Staff tried to provide some additional information to you. We found no evidence that this was approved through the ARC or through the building department. Then this is the proposed site plan. This is showing the addition in this location. Part of it is an addition for an enclosed addition to the dining room and kitchen. And this is a covered, screened-in area here. The variance request is in this section here. Reduction from what code standards are for this zoning classification, which is 20-foot rear yard setback to 16 foot, which is illustrated by this dimension line, with an encroachment for 3 foot for eaves and gutters. There is no variance request for the side yard. So this is the rear yard here. This is what you're reviewing this afternoon. This was the motion from the public hearing that the Architecture Review Commission reviewed the reference application at its meeting on December 8, 2021. The ARC voted to deny the variance request for the rear yard setback from 20 foot to 16 foot with an encroachment for 3 foot for eaves and gutters. with the one caveat that I spoke about. The condition was that it didn't meet the hardship criteria for items number 1 and item number 5 on the hardship criteria information that was submitted. That was a 3-to-1 vote, and that concludes my portion at this time, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Villa? Any questions, Mr. Villa? All right, we'll hear from the applicant.
Good afternoon, Council. Steve McElhaney. I'm here representing Anna Burness. And
Swear Mr. McLean, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
The board looked at this, and there was a lot of discussion regarding this particular request. And I'd like to go through a few photographs for you and the difficulties. So it's not just a hardship, but it also says practical difficulties. And the property in the request is consistent with the existing structure. I think that the staff pointed out to you that there's an existing arbor that's at 15 feet 9 inches from the property line. This is a subject site here, and we have support letters from this property owner here who is adjacent to the north, this property owner here who is adjacent to the east, this property owner here who is adjacent to the west. And I'll be going through those in just a minute. This is a subject property, and again outlined here in the rows as the supporting letters. These lots are only 99 feet deep for this entire block. Immediately adjacent to it, and you'll look at these dimensions here, 127 feet, 155 feet deep, another 127 feet deep. The alley and the rights-of-way here are only 50 feet. The rights-of-way here is 60 feet. So this property has lost, essentially has lost the ability to have a deeper lot and also to have the setback that's being proposed, which is, they've lost a foot off of the overall dimension of the property, plus the dimensions of this whole block are smaller than the other ones. So when you start going through the hardship, and it says practical difficulties as well, they didn't establish these lots or these dimensions of these lots. Their house is an existing house. They're not going to pick up the house and try to move it to meet another criteria for a setback. And when the board talked about not meeting the practical difficulties or the hardship criteria, they failed to recognize the fact that this entire block was not even substandard. This doesn't even meet the existing code regarding the zoning. It's a non-conforming lot, as all of those lots are on that property. When we went through this presentation, we provided to them this photograph, which is the existing arbor on the back, which sits at 15 feet 9 inches from the property, the rear property line. And granted, the staff can't find a permit for this, but however, the property owners didn't build this. They're requesting to rebuild this and make it compatible with the existing design of the building. This is a side view. This is what they're showing is existing, and this is what's being proposed, which would be to put a permanent roof on and to make it compatible with the remainder of the house. There's a couple more photographs showing you the extent to which this is an extensive development here in terms of an addition, and I'm not really sure how it would adversely affect anyone else. That's one of the other criteria. It wasn't created by this applicant. It doesn't interfere or adversely affect anyone else. The condition exists already at 15.9. We're asking for it to be reduced from 20 feet to 16 feet. The variance is in harmony with the designated and accommodating the unusual conditions of the property. We essentially are hindered by properties. This one is immediately to the north, which is a 0 lot line. This one is directly across from us, which is right on the alley. There's another one. We're all inside of those other buildings. We're not creating any kind of adverse effect to anyone else. There's another one. When we start looking at the adjacent structures, we have a diagram in here showing you what the relative impact is, or apologize to you, this materials fell when I was back there. So this is the existing impact here, and this is what's being requested to enclose this area so that it looks like that. Here's the diagram showing you what the adjacent properties look like with respect to their setbacks and the existing structure, which is here. This is existing property here. This is the development immediately to the south, which is 718. This is 710, showing you what they have here. The 713, 0 lot line on the alley, almost zero. This is probably about a foot off the alley here, and 709. And I'd like to enter into the record the 3 property owners supporting letters from 718, 710, and 711. 711 Fielding, 710 South Boulevard, and 718 South Boulevard. I'm just going to read this into the record for you. We own and reside at 710 South Boulevard. We support the review request regarding their home at 714. We reviewed the schematic design for their builder and are aware that they request a setback relief from 20 to 16 feet. We support the request for this reasonable and limited exception, which is within the City Council's purview to grant. In light of the size, positioning, and character of their home, we believe the requested variance is reasonable and appropriate. We do not feel that their request or design is out of character with Hyde Park, and to that point, we still have to meet the Hyde Park design and development guidelines. Specifically, many of the homes, as well as those adjacent on South Fielding, already exist with structures which have broader service alleys which are closer. Our entire property abuts the entire northern boundary of their property, and as owners, we would be the ones impacted. We respectfully request that you believe that this would not be in opposition upon our property rights. To the contrary, it would enhance the historic look of the rear and would provide needed privacy for them at their house. That was from 710 South Boulevard.
Mr. Feldman?
Yes, Mr. Michelini, are you going to be putting those letters into the record?
I'm going to hand them to you, put them in the record.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay.
The property owner 718, we're writing in support again. I mean, I'm just paraphrase it in 711 South Fielding. And one of the things that is noted on the letter from 711 Fielding is that this individual is an architect and member of the Hillsborough County Historic Preservation Grant Committee. So they are well aware of the guidelines and what happens with these various proposals. We have met the intent of what the code says you have to meet in terms of practical difficulties and hardship. I've already told you about the lot that doesn't, it's a non-conforming lot. They have an existing structure that already is at 15 feet 9 inches. And we believe that the request to convert this and make it historically compatible and meeting the historic preservation guidelines and design is an appropriate and respectful request to this board to overturn the ARC's denial. We're respectfully requesting that you overturn that denial.
Mr. Scott has some questions, Mr. McLean.
Yes, sir.
So you're essentially righting a wrong, meaning what's existing there in the back patio, you said they could not find a permit for, so we're assuming that it was built without a permit, correct?
I don't know. That's what Mr. Vila said,
Okay.
that they looked for a permit, but it's old. It's not a new construction.
So it could have been, who knows, I mean, the house has to be 1930s, I would assume, so it's
Yes, sir.
almost, it could have been any time in that.
It could, any time from the 20s on.
So what you plan to replace it with is an enclosed one-story design, basically adding an additional room, and of course it would match the rest of the house, so it
Yep.
wouldn't disturb the historic integrity.
No, sir.
And you're asking for 20 feet to 16 feet.
Yes, sir.
And looking at 713, 711, even 709, and 718, so all of them except 710, they are right up to the alley. They're right up to the, I mean, I think it's a lot of headache for something really so minor that's not affecting the historic integrity and character of the surrounding parcels. So I mean, we'll hear from the public on this, but I don't see an issue with this.
Mr. Carlson, recognized.
Mr. Michelini, did the applicant or did the owner, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Did the owner have the benefit of your expertise in presenting the ARC? And if so, are there any new arguments that you have now that you wish you had made at that meeting?
Well, what I did pull that's different was the platting of the adjacent blocks that are much larger, when we stated it on the record. And then there was a question that came up that we didn't have the verification on regarding these properties and when did they encroach and build back to the alleyway. And then there was an assertion that well, these weren't really occupied spaces. And so, we went back and then that's when you have those letters of support, and we went and made sure that they knew exactly what was being proposed, and they verified that their properties were probably more not out of character, but they encroached more than the request that was being provided to the ARC. Did I answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Any questions, Mr. McLean? Anybody from the public speak on the side?
No one is registered.
No, great. Move to close.
Move to close.
Now stop.
Second.
So number 6, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
I'll take.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco, lunch.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion that we overturn the ARC's decision and hereby grant the variance requested in application number ARC 21-557 for the property located at 714 South Boulevard, because the petition does meet the hardship criteria set forth in section 27-114. When I did ask questions a few minutes ago to the applicant, he does have letter of support from the surrounding neighbors. I don't think it would affect the historic character of the neighborhood. I think it really does match at least 4 out of the 5 surrounding properties. And it's a minor request. They are taking out the outdoor patio and creating an enclosed structure that would match the architectural style of the house. Therefore, if you didn't know, you would think it's part of the original historic structure. And that's my motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vieira. Roll call.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Citro?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
And Goods?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you so much, council.
All right. We're to that hour, gentlemen, that hour. And we got walk on, that's right, we got the walk on. Yeah. Pardon me? Do walk on. Yep, got Mr. Miranda too, yep. Ma'am, are we, you have an item?
My item, you already had talked about it this morning. I didn't know that, you had, walk-ins at 9 o'clock in the morning. But one of my concerns is,
Oh.
so I have to come back another day to talk about the subject that I wanted to talk about.
Okay,
Because you already had to open the door for it this morning.
all right. We'll take Mr. Randall Rezo first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My resolution is, one, that is a resolution for the Tampa City Council, the city, calling upon the United States Secretary of Interior to recognize the historical significance of Roberto Clemente's death in Lozia, Puerto Rico, by adding it to the National Registry of Historic Places, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. You want a roll call on that, Mr. Shelby? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Clemente. All right, we'll go to the second walk-on. Madam Clerk is here today. Huh? Boss lady's here today.
Good afternoon, Council. Shirley Foxnow, City Clerk, here to talk about the City Council appointment policy and procedures guidelines for filling the vacancy in District 3 at large, existing on March 14th, 2022. We want to go over the selection process, get you to approve the process, approve the timeline and the application. That's today. And I will just briefly go over the timeline. And once you approve that today, on Monday at noon, we want to have the application form available to the public. Also include an invitation to those that complete the application to appear on April 4th at 9 a.m.
No, April 5th.
April 5th, I stand corrected, at 9 a.m. And that's on March 21st at noon, the application and the invitation. They will have 10 days to complete the application, which will be due on March 31st, which is Thursday, at 5 p.m., either in electronic form or in person. On Friday, April 1st, the compiled application will be distributed to you, Council. Then on Tuesday, April 5th, individuals will be granted a 2-minute presentation, and following that, the selection will be by ballot, and then there's a resolution that will be passed. That's on April 5th. And on April 7th, which is D-Day, the new council member will be administered their oath of office, and they will take their seat, his or her seat.
Ms. Fox knows. Mr. Carlson has a question, I have one. Mr. Carlson.
Just quickly, are we supposed to take public comment on the 5th or not?
Yes, they will make as far as public comment.
Not general public.
Not general public.
Yes.
Council has not done that in the past, general public.
Okay, I think we should just maybe we should make that explicit so people don't have the expectation that there will be public comment.
Okay, I will confirm that, and,
Because if a bunch of people show up expecting to speak, then they'll not be happy.
it's a,
They-
it's a special call meeting for the 2-minute interviews. And, so I can put that on the special call meeting, there'll be the 2-minute interviews, and there would be no general public comment, unless that's, as I recall, Ms. Fox Knowles, that has not been done.
But we can, if allowed, you could put a second sentence that says, however, feedback can be made a public comment in all the meetings prior to that. Right, all the Thursday meetings, people can make, in the regular public comment, they can give us the public comment there. It's not that we're not taking public comment,
Right.
we're just not taking it on that day.
Well, Thursday, March 31st is a meeting that's being set, and we can set public comment if you like on the applications, if people want to speak to the appointment on that day, council, and not have it on the 5th or the 7th.
But there,
It's general public
It's
comment.
general public comment.
right, so there's no public comment, no general public comment on this day of our reviewing applications. So that would be the March 31st, if somebody wanted to generally make a comment about maybe a candidate or something like that, but there's no public comment
That's right.
on that Tuesday, correct?
That's correct.
Just for the applicants.
Just for the applicant.
That's it.
Because I'm like looking at this timeline of April 1st, if we're getting this applications on Friday, so I'm sure y'all ain't gonna get that to us probably to about noon time, I would imagine. If that, and it could be a multitude of applications to talk about review over a weekend to be ready for Tuesday. Am I correct on that?
That's right.
That's right. And in the past, we've had over 100.
Holy smoke.
Yeah. I was part of that. Who else was part of that?
I applied in 10.
I was part of it.
How's that narrowed down, Ms. Fox?
You would need at least 4 votes to be elected. But individuals, it will be narrowed down based on how many votes you get.
Right, 'cause I'm saying you say before you had 100 candidates, so that's narrowed down to
A second ballot
second ballot. All right.
or third ballot.
And that's set forth, by the way, council, in your narrative description of the selection process. A K, for instance, in the event no applicant receives the requisite 4 votes, only the applicants receiving the greatest and the next greatest or equal number of votes shall be eligible for another ballot. The city clerk will then distribute another ballot to city council with only the names legible being those of the applicants in the runoff, and shall tally and announce the results. The applicant who receives 4 or more votes shall be the person selected.
Yes.
And
Can all council members get a copy of the application per se?
You have
And
it.
send that out to, yeah, once it's approved, the application, I don't need the face sheet, just the application. All right,
All right.
Mr. Carlson, anything else, man?
No, just to be clear, the only vote is a paper vote, not a hand vote, right? It's not a voice vote.
It's a ballot.
It's a ballot.
Okay.
The question will be how the clerk does announce that, and I'm going to have to discuss that with the clerk and the legal department, the tallying and the vote, in light of recent court cases, just to make sure that we dot all our i's and cross all our t's.
All right, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Viera?
And just to clarify as well, building on the last question, the paper ballot will sign it, correct? So we signify who we
Oh,
vote
yes.
for? Okay,
Just
good,
like we've done
good. That's
before.
what I thought. Thank you.
Great.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Mr. Fox knows, anything else, ma'am?
No, thank you.
All right, with a motion on the floor for the application process?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Citro, second by Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. We have the application process approved.
And this application, Madam Clerk, will be available on noon on Monday.
Noon
So
on
please, council, and that'll come through the clerk's office, is that correct?
On Monday. But if you would, each in the council members, okay? All right.
So please, council, even though this has been approved, you won't be distributing until noon on Monday, is that
Right, just
correct?
to make sure we don't have any discrepancies within the application as errors, so I wanna make sure that's corrected, but it will be released on noon, and I will forward a copy to all council members. In addition to the motion, can we schedule that special call meeting on April 5th, just for the record?
I'd like to make a motion to schedule that special call meeting to, screen the applicants and hear from them April
5th at 9.
a.m. Tuesday.
Second by Mr. Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion granted. Mr. Shelby, your turn, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. First of all, if I direct your attention to the April 7th meeting on your calendar, your last item is that the Chief of Staff and the Chief Financial Officer appear and discuss the collaborative process between the administration and the council for creating the next budget. I'm going to ask council to amend that to have, including the discussion of the Citizens Budget and Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Maniscalco,
Second.
second by Mr. Citro, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you. One last thing, council, and it's rather significant and it's rather unusual, but I'm going to ask for council's consideration to consider postponing next week's charter workshop in light of the events of this week. I know that is unusual, but in talking with the director of the Institute of Government at USF and reviewing what has happened with having one council member not present and not being appointed now until March 7th, it would be of greater value to council to have a full council. And pardon me, April 7th, what did I say? March? Oh, I'm living in the past. April 7th. So for council's consideration.
Man.
You recognize, sir.
So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was thinking about that. We had a potential tie vote here that we had to continue for that one item that was already continued. We saw what happened this morning with the chief. That could have been a tie vote. That's a huge issue with the chief. And being that we have an even number, you can't have a 4-3, you can't, it could be ties and ties and ties. So being that the charter is so significant, and basically the constitution of the city, as long as we don't lose any money, because I know we have a facilitator, and I know that is going to cost us, I would suggest that we postpone that to the next workshop, the next month or whatever it takes, so we have that 7th council member, so we have a full council, because some issues could be contentious, I don't know, but I don't want tie votes and we waste our time. I'd rather it be a full council and we get what we want done on that said workshop day and continuing this. But my question is, will we lose any money? Because I know I asked that the last time was how much does the facilitator cost? And is it a contract that we signed or didn't sign? Did we put a deposit? Did we make payment for that? I mean, are we affected financially by that?
What we have is acceptance of the proposal by council, and I have had it approved through the administration, through the process of purchasing and the like. There is no signed contract. I did speak with Angela Christ in the discussion of the week, and she assured me that if it was postponed, that there would be no financial impact. And it's early enough now for it to be for next week's workshop meeting in the morning to be canceled and have no impact on the facilitator. So as long as it's not postponed too long, my suggestion would be, council, did you want to wait till after the council appoints the 7th member before you set the date, and then we can set the date? Then it could be a special call meeting, or however you wish to do it.
One question is, my last question. If we make any changes to the charter, anything that we propose, and it has to go to a ballot, is there, what is the deadline for the supervisor elections, or does it matter if we postpone it? I'm looking here like May 26th, looks like a light workshop day. The April workshop is very busy, but what are the deadlines that we have so we don't postpone it too far that we lose getting it on whatever we change, if we change anything to the next
Mr.
election?
Maniscalco, a workshop day is not good, sir. We're talking about charter issues. You saw how the day went. A workshop day is just not good. That has to be a special call meeting. That's why previously we moved everything off the workshop to only deal with the charter issue. I just think the charter is just too important to try to have other things and try to rush. We don't need to rush that because, you know, the public's probably gonna speak on that as well. Other council members have ideas and so forth, and I wouldn't wanna put that on a workshop day unless we're scrapping the workshop day.
Then let's do a special call on a Tuesday.
That's
We have
fine.
April 12th,
Yep.
we have
April 12th might be too soon.
April 19th, I believe.
Why is that too soon, Mr. Shelby? If we're gonna
Well,
make an appointment.
I'm just concerned about whoever's coming on board, getting them up to speed.
Then we make sure we select the best candidate.
Well, let me just, well,
Mr.
that's true,
Chairman.
that's a good point.
Mr. Chair.
But let me,
What
let
you
me
say,
not.
Mr. Miranda? They gotta get up to speed real quickly, didn't you, sir?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, we
To
worry
a-
about them getting up to speed. We gotta move.
But you do ask a very good question about the deadlines. If you wanted it for the November 8th general election, it has to be to the supervisor of elections, the deadline for final approval of the text is August 23rd of this year, 2022. They need
Plenty of
enough time to secure a translation, so I'd
Plenty
say.
of time, Mr. Shelby, plenty of time.
And then if you wanted it for the city election, that deadline is January 20th of next year.
We have plenty of time. Mr. Carlson.
Well, two things, a question and a statement. Could we just move the workshop items off May 26th and move them to the future and then clear that date? Because again, the public expect to show up on Thursdays, and maybe they'll find out to show up on Tuesday, but if we can move that,
Why not? I mean, if you
one
look.
of them is the housing crisis.
May 26th,
That's too far down, man. That's a long time.
I would rather do a special call on Tuesday. I'm sorry, on a Tuesday in April, like we're gonna do with, you know, the applicants coming in on a Tuesday, and that's a big issue. I know we don't have public comment, but
Can I just, before,
I have a favor to ask the council, because this is also going to be dependent on the facilitator's availability. So if council would give me their druthers, and remind council that you do have a special call meeting set for the appointment, and you also have the commendations already set on a Tuesday as well. So it would be an additional Tuesday. But if you give me an opportunity to come back next week with available dates or non-available dates, then you'd be able to fit it in if you could give it some consideration.
I'm always available.
Because she did raise that issue with me, that would be one of the controlling factors.
I'm always available.
Okay.
I make myself available.
I have no friends.
So if it's council's pleasure, I know it's rather unusual, but if council wishes to cancel next week's workshop, then you would have the morning free and you'd have the night meeting. And I know it's short notice, but I think it might behoove you, and it might behoove the process. At least that was the understanding and discussion that I had.
So you're looking for several dates?
No, I'm a consensus of council and finding the dates this person is unavailable, and then be able to come back next week
Okay.
with a
I
date.
make a motion that we direct Mr. Shelby to communicate with the facilitator, see what dates are not available, and then we can ease the process, or make it easier for us to select a date, which we could do by next Thursday's evening session, correct?
That's correct.
And that's it. And we'll still meet the deadlines for the supervisor, and we're not kicking it far down the road where, you know, the public thinks that we're avoiding the topic or anything negative, and we're still getting down to business with the full council. And cancel.
Well, that would be a separate motion if you could do that.
Oh, okay. So that's my motion, that we direct Mr. Shelby to do those things.
To work with the facilitator, find
Yeah.
out the dates that are not available, come back next Thursday evening.
Yep, and then we vote and decide on a calendar
And
date.
in the meantime, council individually, just give it some thought, check your calendars and see what works for you.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Maniscalco. Second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
And then the second motion is to cancel the 9 AM workshop on March 24th.
All right, we'll have a second on that. Second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Carlson?
Thank you, council.
I just want to make a comment about that. You all may have seen we talked about it briefly this morning, but the comment by the mayor's spokesperson yesterday, today in the Times. I think it was 40 or so years that there was no major amendments to the charter, and then the last council, of which we have 3 members here, created the Charter Review Commission, of which 2 of us were on, and each of the members who were here nominated people. That Charter Review Commission then recommended a process that the voters voted on, that at least every 10 years there would be a Charter Review Commission. The mayor's spokesperson said in the media that Goods and I are trying to circumvent the process of the Charter Review Commission. The charter also says that City Council, as we're proposing, City Council can put any amendments we want on the ballot. If no City Council have done that before, that's up to them. But it doesn't mean that just because we on the Charter Review Commission and the City Council at the time put the Charter Review Commission every 10 years doesn't mean it can't be updated. There's no process to circumvent. We're following the process, and I want to make that clear. The second thing is like a conspiracy theory that's going around, and I think it was started by the last mayor. You're trying to take away the strong mayor form of government. No, one of you may propose doing that, but we have some things that need to be tweaked. Just like the last time, one of the basic things was instead of saying he or him, we changed it to, I think, he, she, etc. But there are some things that are confusing. Like the last time, one of the things we cleaned up because of a problem in the last administration was how long can a nominee be interim before they have to be appointed. And we fixed that problem. But a new problem that arose is what's the title of somebody who's been nominated but not confirmed. And I think it's worth us having that conversation. That's not a power struggle in a strong mayor form of government. It's just clarifying so there's no conflict. And there's some other minor things like that we can, I don't know what you all would propose, but this doesn't have to be a fight with the mayor's office. It doesn't have to be a fight with the last mayor. It is just a discussion to clear up some language so that we can avoid problems and conflict in the future. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Carlos. I said on the Central Center, and I look at some of the things that we talked about, and people say went back and reviewed tapes on us, but I'm just, in my mind, some of the things that we talked about, put on, it seemed like the writing was kind of changed them. I don't know, but I look at, there are a lot of things in the charter that are not clear. Now, sitting here as a councilman, I see why probably the last council had issues, or the citizens have issues, because some things are just not cut and dry clear. Mr. Shelby has sometimes we make an interpretation and we got to fight with legal. I think some things that have come up now have to be crystal clear. I look at the Supreme Court Justice nominee right now. That person's a nominee. That person cannot make any judicial decisions or whatever to the United States of America.
Or take a salary.
Or take a salary. And cannot walk around doing this. That person is a nominee going around talking to the senators reference to a confirmation. And I think it's kind of out of balance the way we're doing things. And that's just my opinion. I'll just talk more about that when we have our charter review discussion. But, it's just a matter of just cleaning a few things up, not changing the form of government, but just cleaning some things up so we're clear and the public wants some clear explanation as well. Mr.
I'm
Moran?
not trying to be the devil's advocate in any means, but if you're looking at just the chief, you got to look at all the.
All of them. Oh, yes, sir. You look at all of it.
All of them. So
Absolutely.
that means that they can't get a salary, all of them.
That's absolutely.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
So you got to realize what the effects of positive and negative is to that. That's all.
Absolutely. I agree. Totally. All right, Ms. Shelby, anything else for you, sir?
No, sir, thank you.
Mr. Cross?
Thank you, council.
Two things real fast, if I could. Some police officers have told me that there are a couple expenses that they have to incur that they'd rather not personally incur when they respond to what do you call a response? How do you call responding to an incident?
If I'm responding, I'm 1051. I mean, I'm en route to a call.
So when they go, if it happens that as they're trying to respond, if the closest parking space is a privately owned parking space, and they park there, if they get a ticket from the privately owned lot owner, they have to pay it personally.
I never heard of that.
And the same thing if they.
In a marked police car?
Yep.
And I get more tickets than them, and I'm a councilman. I go crazy and I get tickets all the time.
And the second thing is that if there are certain circumstances by which if they're responding when they drive through a red light camera, that they also can get tickets. And it could be in both cases we shouldn't do anything, or maybe we should. But anyway.
I think that's something that needs to be an explanation of. I've never heard, even if you go through the tolls, usually you have a toll piece, or you have, most police cars, even unmarked cars have a special sticker, so even if it's a private, I mean, I don't.
So in both
that's new to
cases,
me.
and I confirmed it with PBA this morning.
Okay.
In both cases, the police officer has to pay those themselves. And it seems to me that unless they're obviously breaking the law, that the city should reimburse them.
I
So
think they're responding to a call, they're working for the city,
So I would like to make a motion to ask staff to report back on May 5th regarding whether it is possible or necessary to reimburse police officers for private parking tickets and red light camera fines incurred during an official response.
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, I said May 5th.
May
If
5th.
it turns out the staff finds that it's not an important issue or that it's covered in some way and some police officers didn't know about it, fine. But I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
Second is, there's a lot of discussion going on about the all for transportation money, and it sounds like the city could get anywhere back from 80 to 120 million after the refunds. We don't know yet, but I'd like to make a motion to ask staff to report to council on May 5th.
Second.
To receive council to report to council on May 5th and receive council and public input as to how Tampa's share of the AFT money should be used.
Second, and if I can make a few comments.
All for transportation.
I think, a substantial chunk should be used for expanding the streetcar. I got the mayor's support on that, I'm sure. And the rest have paved the streets in West Tampa. Councilman Miranda and I have suffered. So have the people listening to to fix these streets, but I
Don't
think
take all the money, huh?
I think a good chunk, maybe $5 to $10 million should go to road repaving because it's long overdue, and the rest should be dedicated to either expanding the streetcar or some, investment in public transportation that we can handle. Just my thoughts, but we'll hear about it then.
And if I may throw in my thoughts, sidewalks.
And sidewalks.
Half a mile from schools.
Yeah.
So the idea here is that even before the money comes in, the decision may not have been made by May 5th, but let's have a conversation and hear from the public and let staff hear from city council as to what our suggestions are. Ultimately, we approve the budget. So let's give them our input before they decide what to do. Instead of us responding on a consent agenda, let's get feedback on it. That's the idea.
Ms. Carson moves an item, Mr. Maniscalco, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I have a few items today. I'd like to make a motion to present a commendation to El Gallo de Oro on April 12th. Tomorrow, El Gallo de Oro will be closing its doors for the last time. This iconic restaurant located in Fiesta Plaza in West Tampa has decided to make a new start in the northern Ocala area.
It's the pleasure.
I think it's Chiefland? Is that near Ocala?
No, she's north of that.
Okay, I think they,
Ocala's Marion County.
I think they said.
Chiefland's past Ocala, isn't it?
I think that's what they said.
To the west, isn't it?
But I look. Okay, so I look forward to honoring them for all their service to the community, and I've already reached out to them, and I have everything written down for the clerk, El Gallo de Oro. So we have it right, and that's it. Present a recommendation.
Second by Citro.
April 12th. Here, yes.
Second by Mr. Citro. That's what it means?
That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second by Mr. Citro, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
All right, second, I'd like to extend my condolences to the family of Cookie Garcia, who passed away. I'm sure everybody knew him, involved in the community forever. I knew him through Ybor City Lions Club. The ex-husband of Norma Bean, from back in the day, Norma Bean from... Yeah, my mother told me, and then I got confirmation yesterday or the day before. But great individual involved with Tampa Bay Sports Club. He was Jesuit High School Alum of the Year. Just so many things. And a wonderful friend to me and a lot of people here. So my condolences to the family.
Can I say?
Go ahead.
Norma was divorced from him for a long time, but she loved him, and he was in and out of hospice and other things, and they had a great relationship. So condolences to everybody.
Yep. And that's it. And the last item is regarding Allied Security. We have the security folks here, especially downstairs, and those that have helped on the second floor.
Get a second on that motion.
No, it was just a condolence.
Oh.
Yeah. But I know that we have Al at the front desk, and Al's been there for years, and he knows who comes in and out on a regular basis. But there's also the young lady with the dark hair who you see that has been working the second floor.
Right.
And Donna? And it came to my attention that she was being reassigned out of City Hall, and somebody else was taking her place. And we talked about it and her concerns. She loves working here. I think today may be her last day. I don't know what we can do, if we can reach out to the supervisor or somebody in charge at Allied. The thing is, you know, when you have somebody like Al or like Donna, who is familiar with who comes in and out of City Council, City Hall, you know, they build a rapport with the community because we have a lot of regular speakers and whatnot. I think it's important that we have people that, you know the community, know the faces coming in, and that's it. So it would be my recommendation maybe to Jim, who I know has been coordinating and working, you know, with the virtual second floor and all that, that whatever we can do, that she stays here with us. If y'all agree, I think she should stay here. Al has been here for a long time, and just keep it as is.
Who's over the maintenance department? Who's over the maintenance? Because Jim might not be over. You might need to go a little higher than Jim, because he might need to.
Send a motion from council that you like to keep.
Yeah, we keep it.
All right, can we send a letter directed by the chair's office that we'd like to keep, huh?
I don't know which department is the one who
Send it to the chief of
handles.
staff.
Chief of staff?
Yeah, we can send it up to there. If
Chief of staff.
therefore, my motion would be that the chair's office send a letter of support that we keep Donna here with us at City Hall.
Second by Mr. Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, motion granted.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you. That's it.
all right. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. A month ago, we had Ms. Abby Feely and Ms. Kate Wells discuss some items about Chapter 27 at a workshop that was presented here. After the information that they gave us, we took no actions on the information that was presented to us. But I had made a motion that Ms. Feely come back and briefly rediscuss the items presented to council. Since we took no actions,
Right.
there is no need for her to come back on that date, and I want to rescind that motion.
All right, second by Mr. Miranda, all in favor? Any opposed?
I believe it was June 23rd. June 23rd. June 23rd.
Oh, when she's supposed to come back?
Yes. Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, motion granted.
Nothing else.
All right,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Vieira, he
Chair.
doesn't have anything today for us, so we'll.
I got a couple, nothing big, nothing at all controversial. Y'all may have seen the memorial outside by the group Remembering Our Fallen. I wanted to give them a city council commendation. They're highlighting local soldiers killed in action.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, motion granted.
Thank you, sir. Then I was contacted by the City of Tampa Autism Friendly Committee that they wanted to speak before Tampa City Council for Autism Awareness Month. And I think, are we in April still doing the commendation week?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, if I may, then I'll do it for that day.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor? Any opposed, motion granted.
And then lastly, you know, something I thought of, I have a good friend of mine, some of y'all met him, Tim Reed, who has a veteran canine dog who was in Afghanistan, and the dog had a lot of health problems and whatnot. He had to kind of pay for it out of pocket, even though this dog saved a lot of lives. And it kind of got me thinking on a local level, which is what does the city of Tampa, especially I guess Tampa Police Department, do with its canine dogs after they're finished?
They're adopted.
They're adopted, but what do they do for their long-term care? Like if they
I don't think they do
have,
anything. Once they're adopted, they adopt to the family, to a good family or a family who's dealt with a police dog before, I believe, and they're adopted.
I'd like to inquire on, and you know what, and Chairman Goods, let me ask you, what would you think about some sort of a city program to help with the maintenance and care of those canine dogs, many of whom have health conditions that are related to the work that they do with the Tampa Police Department? some sort of a fund or something.
It's your motion. I mean, maybe the police department has something, I don't know.
Okay, well, what I will do then is I'll have it, I mean, it's nothing, an emergency. I'll get it set off for the first week in May, if I may, just as a written report, no appearance. There you go.
And do you have what the motion would be to whom? Is it clear for you?
To administration to report on whether or not there is any fund for care and assistance of TPD dogs once they're adopted.
All right, second.
You know,
Some
I'm
do.
not sure.
Some
are.
do
Yeah.
get them, and then
Yeah.
other times they're adopted by people.
Yeah. Mhm.
The ones they feel they can control.
Yeah, and that's why I just want to report. It's nothing, you know.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco, all in favor?
And if they get with me before and it turns out it's a non-issue, then I'll withdraw it. And that's it. Thank you, sir. And by the way, if I may, good meeting today. There was a hell of a meeting. So there you go. Heck of a job, Brownie, so to speak.
Mr. Miranda?
Oh, yes, sir.
On your first commendation, did you have a date on that, or is it going to be all?
April 12th. Yes, April 12th. Yes, sir. Mhm.
Nothing, sir.
All right, Miss. You gotta come, take the gavel, sir. Matter of fact, I just got it now. As you know, we gave Miss Vivian Haywood an accommodation this month, and I went to the hospital to give it to her, 'cause I always believe giving people their flowers while they're here. She did pass away. Her services will be at New Bethel Progress Church, 2914 East North Bay. That'll be Saturday the 19th at 10 a.m. The wake will be Friday from 3 to 8 p.m. at Wilson's Funeral Home. And they're gonna have refreshments at 11:30 a.m. at Al Barnes Park at 21st Ave and 34th Street. So again, she was a longtime soldier of violence in our communities, and she fought the good fight, and now he's taking her home with him now. I would like to make a motion to present accommodation to Alethea Leggett, Executive Director of Cornerstone Kids, at their fundraiser on March 31st, 2022, and that'll be off-site.
We have a motion from Chairman Goode. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, sir.
All right, I won't be Mr. Vieira today, but I would like to make a motion to present accommodation to Fair Housing in celebration of their Fair Housing Month, to present it at their event on April 13th, 2022.
We have a motion from Chairman Goode, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Anything else, sir?
Last thing, I looked at this packet. I guess it's something that's, again, dealing with the Hannah DPR packet. I don't know if this was received by the clerk or received and filed or not, but I think everyone received this huge packet today. But we'll just put it as a receive and file when we get a chance to go there. But Mr. Joe Robinson distributed it to everyone. I have one, I'll give it to you, but huge packet. I think everyone got it, if I'm not mistaken.
We have a motion to receive and file this item from Chairman Goode. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, anything else, sir?
That's it, sir.
Move to receive and file? I'm sorry, yeah.
Receive and file.
Yeah.
All right, we're adjourned.
Yes.